to the MMA Roadshow, episode number 148. My name is John Morgan. Cole Coffey is not with me. He is in Charlotte, North Carolina for UFC on Fox 27. Jacare versus Brunson 2. But we'll get to him later because I got more important things going on right here. In Temecula, California, Bellator 193, Larkin versus Gonzalez, and special guest. The champ is in the building. Women's flyweight champion, Ilima-Lei Macfarlane. Damn near didn't make it.
Yes.
But you did make it. What in the hell? Where have you been? What has been going on?
So I guess we were supposed to be here about like an hour and a half ago, but we had the craziest time trying to get here. So we call an Uber, and I'm thinking, I tell CJ, dude, you know I have my car. We could have just taken my car. He's like, oh, it's fine. Like, you know, we'll just catch an Uber anyway. It's on its way. So we get into the car, and the first thing she says to us is, oh, this is only my second time driving. And I'm like okay. Well, she said for Uber.
Oh, okay, I was going to say, like, second time driving.
So
she was like a 16-year-old.
Okay, that's cool. And so we get in, and we start going. And meanwhile, CJ and I, this was like the first weird thing. CJ and I are having a exclusive conversation with just us.
Right.
And then every single time CJ and I would start talking, she would start talking to us or like talk over us. And it was kind of weird. I'm like, okay.
You're like, hold up.
You know.
You're driving. I'm paying for the service.
Yeah. And she would ask us the same questions, like, so are you like, where are you guys from? And she was actually foreign, too, so her English was a little choppy as well. Anyway, whatever, it's no big deal. So we start going, and then she was on a different app. She was on, first of all, she didn't even say that she picked him up, so it's telling her to go back to the casino. And then when we explained to her, oh, you have to say you picked us up, then she did it, and then it started taking us. And then she was on a different app. It was crazy. Anyway, it was just taking us to the wrong place. And on our phones, it was like, where is she going? And long story short.
Well, at some point, I get a text from CJ, and he's like, John, send me the address. And by the way, I should say, we're at Ballast Point. Amazing place. Our boy Anthony taking care of us over here, getting us set up. We got the private room. So we had a nice spot picked. I mean, not that Pachanga's not a great place. We could have done it at Pachanga. It's a beautiful facility. But we thought if we can go get a frosty beverage.
I would way rather go to a brewery.
And look at the champ, by the way. By the way, the champ has 2 frosty beverages in front of her right now, so you know she's roadshow friendly. That's what's up. So I get this text. It's like, give me the address. I'm like, bro, you were just here last night, CJ, and B, like it's everybody that I've talked to, as soon as you say Ballast Point, they know where Ballast Point is. They know what's up, and so all right, I sent him the address, no big deal, and then like I assume everybody's on the way. Gives me a call, hey. It says we're gonna be there at 4. No big deal. We'll be there at 4. I'm like, all right, cool. No, hey, we'll just sit here and have a frosty beverage. No big deal. Then I get a text later. It's like half an hour later. It says, we are finally on our way. Disaster.
Yes.
What?
I tweeted you, and I'm like, I don't think we're going to make this interview. This is my last tweet because we're going to die in this car ride. Dude, so we're on this super windy, treacherous road.
Now, this is another Uber driver.
No, so this is the first one, the same one, the lady. We're on, like, a treacherous road, and this girl is literally staring out her window. Oh, it's so beautiful. I've never been here. And then she would go and, like, swerve. Oh, so that's when I started getting nervous. I started sweating. I'm like, dude, CJ, we might not survive. Like, she's taking us to the middle of nowhere, and she's not even paying attention to the road. So finally, once we got off the windy road and back on the straight road, CJ's like, hey, can you just drop us off over here? Because we'll figure it out.
Wow.
So she dropped us off on the side of the road in Paula, which is in a different county.
Yeah, he said, I didn't even understand. He's mentioned some town. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Like, we're on the res somewhere. And so that's when, we start trying to call other Uber or like trying to request other Ubers. The only Uber in the vicinity is her. So she keeps accepting it. And we're like, no, we want a different driver. So we keep denying it. And then so finally I'm like, you know, CJ, let's just hitch a ride. We just need to get a ride back to Temecula. It's a straight shot. Why don't we just hitch a ride for somebody? So I start walking up and down, we start walking towards Temecula, and I'm trying to hitch a ride.
No, you didn't.
Yeah. And, you know, CJ is all, you know, busting my balls like, oh, you're not a good hitchhiker. I'm like, it's because you're with me, dude. If I was by myself, I would obviously get given a ride,
right.
You know. So me and CJ are just walking up and down the road, and then I start posting on my Instagram story like, somebody send help, we're in Paula. And then sure enough, a couple people hit me up and was like, hey, so we live in the next town, he wants to come get you. But by that time, another Uber driver he was a couple
minutes.
Turned
their app on finally or something.
Yeah. So he was our saving grace. What was his name again? Do you remember, CJ? Okay, well, so this Uber driver comes and gets us. He seems pretty cool, right? And as we're sitting there, and he's taking us around. Then I look at his Uber sticker, and it wasn't a sticker. It was a piece of paper taped up to the window. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we are about to get murdered right now. So yeah, but we got here safely.
That's
and
adventure.
I wasn't gonna drink. I wasn't planning on drinking, but I'm like, I need 2 beers at the same time.
Damn straight you do.
Thank
that
you,
is
Ballast
crazy.
Point.
Ballast Point is doing what's up. I was having some habanero sculpin earlier, which was super spicy. You're doing the chili.
I'm doing like
wahoo?
a Thai chili something, and then I'm gonna do the habanero after that.
Got a little bit of everything. That's what's up. All right, well let's talk about it. Other than today not being great, the rest of your career has been phenomenal. You won the inaugural title back in November. You got the inaugural flyweight belt. What's champ life like?
Oh my gosh. If you really want to get into it, so since my fight, I'd taken a break. That's what I've always done after every single fight.
Right.
I always take a break. I like to travel someplace. I like to put on some weight, have some beers and good food. So anyway, I had the craziest trip back home. I'm not sure if you follow me on social media, but when I went home to Hawaii, I was staying at a sponsor's house because we were doing like promo stuff, with my belt and everything. The house burned down. And my belt was inside the house.
Okay, all right. Well, I saw the resolution of this. So, yeah, let's start with the backstory. What the hell happened?
Yeah, so basically, it was an old traditional Hawaiian house. So it had a thatched roof. It was all wood, And so the original plan was we were just going to stay at the house that night, eat some dinner, just chill, hang out. Of course, I was the one that suggested we go sing karaoke. So they take me out to go karaoke. When we come back home, the entire house is fully on fire. There was no way we were saving anything. So that happened, and it was crazy. And we still don't know what the cause of the fire is yet. But, yeah, so that happened.
The whole house was gone.
Entire house.
And your belt was inside.
My belt was inside. The firefighters who showed up on scene actually followed me, and they were like, don't tell me your belt was in it. I was like, yeah. And so the next morning they actually found it. It was melted down in like this solid mass lump thing.
Did they give it to you?
They did.
So you have like the lump of the belt?
I do, and I saved it. I'm totally gonna frame it because that's
amazing.
That's my first belt, right? And so that was the first crazy incident that happened on my travels. And then we're all dirty and gross. We're wearing the same clothes. We don't have anything.
You got no clothes.
Literally, yeah. All my bag, my passport, ID was in there. Everything was in there. So then. I finally get back to Oahu where, I live, and literally 12 hours later, we get a alert on our phones. Ballistic missile incoming. Seek shelter. This is not a drill. And I'm just like,
oh my God.
This is the craziest trip ever.
Now, when that happened, it was early in the morning for you guys?
Yeah, it was 8 o'clock in the morning.
8 o'clock in the morning. So you got it. What's the first thing? Are you like, I'm assuming you believe it, right? Like you don't second guess it, right?
Yeah, I totally believed it, and because we've had text messages come through before, but it was like, oh, false alarm, or like, oh, this is a drill.
Okay.
With stuff like flash floods.
So that's why I was wondering because we get those like on our phones like Amber Alerts or something like that. But if I think like I live in Vegas, if something popped up on my phone that was like incoming ballistic missile, like I think I would be like, hold on, this must be like some kind of hack or something like that, but. On the islands,
this is a real threat.
This is something that people know, like, this may come someday.
Yeah, and especially when it said this is not a drill, that's what kind of made me like, oh, shit, okay.
Oh, my God. All right, so where were you with family?
So I was at home. Uh-huh. It was just me and my dad were at home, and, so, immediately we woke up, and my sisters start calling, and they're all freaking out. I was actually pretty calm, considering, but my sisters are all freaking out. They all have kids. They're with their kids, and they're just like, oh, they're all crying. So my dad and I, we start going around the house, like trying to close the windows. And then after a while, we realized, okay, closing the windows isn't going to do shit if a missile hits us.
That's going to stop the nuclear missile.
We are totally dead. So then we're just like, you know what? Well, we've lived really good lives considering. And we just went into his room and just laid on his bed, and we started calling our mom and saying our goodbyes. And I was totally prepared. I was like, you know what? I'm happy that I'm here with my dad right now. I would rather.
Shit.
I said on my social media, I'm like, honestly, I would rather die with my family than survive on the mainland. Like, be watching from the mainland as my family like gets blown up.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like,
can understand that.
Awesome. I'm here at home. They took my belt already. I don't care. You can take me too. My belt's gone. There's nothing to live for.
That's great. I mean, you're literally just accepting that your death is coming, and, and you're calling the rest of your family and saying goodbye.
Yeah. But it was, I don't know. Me and my dad have a pretty good sense of humor, so we're kind of laughing. Like, I was even posting on my story, like, all right, guys, see you later. It's been nice.
So so when you found out it wasn't fake, I mean, obviously there's a sense of relief.
Yes.
But is it pissed off? Is it angry? Like, why did you put me through this? I mean, because I guess we've since learned, right? Like, somebody just messed up. It wasn't malicious or whatever. But I mean, are you pissed off?
Well, that's what they want us to believe. But
I'm with you, right? Like,
because I heard Japan had a false alarm as well.
I heard that too.
So I'm like, all right.
So something got fired, right?
Weird.
Something got fired, but maybe we took care of it, and now we're like, oh, it was a false alarm. North Korea shot out something, right?
No, dude.
North Korea shot out something, and our defenses took care of it, and now we're trying to play it off as false. That's what I'm thinking.
Maybe.
And I'm not even a conspirity theory guy.
Yeah.
But we said Japan has like a false one too. Mm-hmm. Has to have happened. Well, that sucks. Well, that's it's been an adventure then.
Yeah. So going back to your question about how has it been?
Champ life
Champ
sucks.
life. Yeah. And then today, so when that happened with the Uber, I'm like, CJ, I'm so sorry. This is what happens when you travel with me.
Oh,
like
man.
something weird always happens.
That's crazy. So, all right, with the belt though, I saw on social media, Bellator got you a new belt.
Yes. So. They surprised me with it at Bellator 192 up at the Forum, and it was so cute too because I guess the whole staff knew that they were getting me another belt, but they all had to keep it a secret, So they surprised me on the last day, and it was freaking awesome. And then I asked them if, hey, do you guys want me to bring it up to the Pachanga fights?
Right.
I don't know if they want me to have it. They're like, no, because the last time you took the belt somewhere, it burned. So
put it in your house.
Yeah, like don't touch it.
So do you live in San Diego?
Yes.
Okay, so you live in San Diego, but you go back home to Hawaii when you can to see family.
Yeah, pretty much like 3 or 4 times a year.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, man, it has been a turn. So I guess with all that going on, you said relaxing, putting a couple pounds on, whatever. So have you been training much or at all? Are you thinking about fighting again?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I wanted to. Okay, so I came back home probably a week ago, and then I was immediately up to LA. And then I came home, and I was like, all right, I'm good. I'm gonna start getting back into things. Yesterday, like trained super hard. And then Bellator was like, hey, are you coming out to Pachanga? Because we got your room. I'm like, oh, well, in that case, yes.
One more weekend. Can't be that
so
bad.
I'm like, I'll start on Monday again.
Very cool.
Yeah, so, but, I don't know when they're planning on fighting me next. I think they actually said they'll let me know next week, like the timeline that they're thinking of. But, we haven't really heard anything.
Are you ready? Are you in that mindset, though? Like, you're ready to book a fight?
I'm down. Like, there's actually a card April 28th in Chicago, Fedor versus Frank Mir.
Right. And
I thought that would be a really cool card to fight on. So I've never been to Chicago. It's a lot of viewers. I thought it would be dope, and I think they would be fighting me against Valerie. Me and Valerie have already talked to each other after her last fight. We were messaging, and she's a super cool chick, and she's like, yeah, whenever you're ready, let's do it. So we'll see. I guess I'll find out.
Think she's earned it already? Next. I mean, I guess it's still developing division, right? So it's not like you got to come in and win 5 fights or something.
Yeah. And, Valerie, I mean, she's definitely a proven veteran of the sport. Right. She went 5 rounds with Joanna. So I don't think anybody's questioning if she needs to prove herself more.
Yeah.
But, no, I could see them fighting her maybe one more time. Or if they gave her a title shot, that's fine, too. It's totally up to Bellator.
Super interesting time in your division because, so Bellator got into the flyweight business, right, earlier than the UFC. And I think for a while, I was like, okay, well, this is a good place for people to go to. But now the UFC has a flyweight division as well. So now it's cool. Like, it's really flourishing.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So at MMA Junkie right now, we have women's bantamweight rankings and we have women's strawweight rankings.
Yeah.
We're about to come out with our flyweight rankings. We haven't finished them yet. We've got to first of all, we have to have IT help us build it on our website, and then we've got to, as a staff, get together and put the whole thing. But so we're going to have a world, flyweight rankings, women's flyweight rankings. I'm curious, where do you think you stack up? Because that UFC, I guess, did you watch The Ultimate Fighter at all? I mean,
I did.
Knowing, those aren't necessarily going to be your opponents because they're in another organization. Yeah. But did you watch and kind of stack yourself up a little bit?
Course.
See? Yeah.
Yeah. I watched the entire season. There was another local girl on the show, Rachel, and Rachel and I knew each other from wrestling in high school. So yeah, I was really curious about the season, and as far as if I may, I always wanted to say, like, you girls should be thanking me for getting your division open because I honestly think that, Bellator needed to crown a champion because I was winning. They signed me. I like grew with them. I was winning. I was proving myself, and I was like, hey, you guys need to crown a champion. And then the minute that they decided, like, yeah, we're going to crown a champion, then, all of a sudden, UFC decides to cancel their original Tough season.
Which was supposed to be men.
Yeah. And, no, we're going to do women's flyweight, And so I'm like, you guys should be thanking me because
I don't think you're wrong there. I mean, I know, like, you may say, like, oh, that's kind of bold to say, but honestly, you're not wrong there because I think by the Bellator getting out ahead of the flyweight division and seeing, like, hold on, we're going to start getting a lot of women, like a Valerie who's like, listen, 115 doesn't work for me, 135 doesn't fit for me. I'll leave the UFC to go compete in a better weight class for me. Like, I mean, great UFC, but I'll be there. I think you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, and Valerie, too. It literally, she signed with Bellator. They made the announcement. It was the same week that the UFC, a couple days afterwards, the UFC was like, all right, we're doing 125. So I think that they felt threatened in a sense. And
it's like they had to act. They had to protect a little bit.
Yeah. So
where do you feel like you stack up in the world? We haven't put our rankings together yet, but you see the talent out there. You know the women in your weight class.
Yeah.
Where do you think when we unveil these rankings, where do you think you're going to be?
Honestly, I think I'm going to be top 5,
yeah.
But I don't expect myself to be number 1, even number 2. And the reason for that is not because of my skill level or anything. It's because of how green I am.
Early in your career.
I'm still early in my career. I've only had 7 fights. There's some girls. There's some like Roxanne Modafferi. She's had like 30 something like that. So it's like.
I'm not gonna lie, I was pulling for her in that fight.
Dude,
no offense to Nico Montano, no offense, but Roxy's just been around for so long, and it's just the heart that she has, and the fact that she's not the most athletically gifted person you've ever seen, but she just works so hard. Yes. She's so sweet. And
I love her.
I'm not gonna lie, like as a journalist, we're not supposed to be pulling for fighters, but in my heart, to me, it was like, oh, I want to see this movie ending.
Dude, right, and I was pulling for her too because I'm just like, she's a pioneer for us. She's done so much for the sport. She's like the comeback story. But at the same time, I really liked Nico on the show, and I was also, I love that she's native. She's Navajo. And
what a story she has.
Yeah, she has a super dope backstory. So honestly, I was happy for whoever won, but I was secretly pulling for Roxy.
Yeah.
Like Nico's still early on. I feel like Nico's like myself, we're still super early on into careers. And, we both just rose to the occasion.
What about Sijara Eubanks?
Oh, I think she's so gangster.
I do too.
I really, really liked her on the show as well. I think she's super gangster, and I hope that she's able to get her weight cutting methods under control in the future because I'd love to see her.
I think she's dangerous.
In the division. Yeah.
Shevchenko's going to be champ, right? If she's going to 25, she's going to be champ, right?
We'll see, man. One thing I've learned in this game is it really is about styles and matchups. So we'll see. I think that I'm so excited to see how this division will grow and. Yeah, but they better be thanking me.
All right, I want to get to Bellator 193 with you, but the last thing I want to ask you, for the longest time, and now it's different because you're champ, but for the longest time when you were coming up, your name was linked with Anastasia Yankova, right? Like that was the link.
Oh,
that was
the fight. Say soccer mom.
Yes, soccer mom.
Oh yeah, Anastasia. Yes.
Soccer mom. That was. I think you've moved past that. I think you've definitely moved past that. But that was the name that I think the fight that we thought everybody was going to put together. What do you think now? Because it's been a while. Is she deserving of a shot at the title? She's had her issues along the way as well. So
yeah,
I think it made sense as like two kind of green fighters in the sport and two marketable names, and let's put them against each other. But now that you're champion, are you thinking about her? Do you think that's a fight that happens?
Honestly, I think the biggest problem was her weight or her weight cuts. She wasn't able to make weight, and she's only fought at catch weight. She hasn't proven that she can actually make 125.
Right.
I would fight her catch weight anyway, but I can't now that I'm champion. It's going to be at 125. So, I think that if she were able to make weight, then that would still be an option. But since then, and I haven't even heard of her for I don't even know if she's fighting anymore.
I think she
honestly.
went away for a while. Yeah, it's kind of wild.
So we'll see. But like you said, it would be a really marketable fight. On paper, it made sense because she's the only other undefeated fighter in the division. And we have similar records or similar number of fights. But honestly, skill-wise, though, I think there's other girls in the division who are better than her.
I agree. All right, let's talk about Bellator 193 main event. Lorenz Larkin versus Fernando Gonzalez. Interesting this morning. So I don't know if a lot of people necessarily knew going in, this was a 180-pound catchweight fight coming in. It wasn't a last-minute thing. That was the way it was scheduled. And I'll be honest, I don't even think I knew until like earlier this week. Sometimes I scanned through the press releases. Maybe I didn't pay attention. But it was scheduled as a 180-pound fight. Fernando Gonzalez had missed weight his last 2 times out. So they said, for safety, not necessarily safety, but just, to make it easier for everybody, let's do it at 180. Lorenz Larkin, God bless him, he says, yeah, I'm cool with 180. I mean, he fought at middleweight before, so let's do 180. And then we go to the weigh-ins today. We have the 2-hour weigh-ins at Pechanga, California. Everything's good. And then Fernando comes in, not only late, doesn't make it in the 2-hour window, but he comes in heavy. He's missed weight 3 times in a row. We're sitting here talking about Anastasia Yankova missing weight. A fighter missing weight 3 times, and I believe that the stat is now missed weight 5 out of his 9 Bellator fights.
Oh, man. That's
give me,
majority missing weight.
Give me your thoughts on this, because as a main event, now this event is definitely not getting the hype that like last week was. But last week you had a welterweight title fight between 2 top-ranked guys in the world. You had the kickoff of the World Grand Prix. So this card's been kind of flying under the radar a little bit. But, if you watch Bellator, even if you watch the UFC, you know who Lorenz Larkin is. If you watch Bellator, you know who Fernando Gonzalez is. He's had some success. He's fun. On paper, looks like a really fun fight, but man, when a guy comes in and misses weight for a catchweight fight, and I talked to him.
Catchweight fight.
I talked to him yesterday, and I said, if you win this would be a big win. Beating a guy like Lorenz Larkin would be a big win for you. But where are you going? Are you a welterweight contender? Are you a middleweight contender? And he said, John, I am a welterweight. I can make welterweight. It's not going to be an issue. And then he misses weight for 180. You as a champion, seeing this, I don't know. What are your thoughts about it? Because it's crazy.
Yeah, so it's really unfortunate too, because I've always been rooting for Fernando. I like the way he fights. He's just a gangster brawler. Just keeps, he just doesn't give a shit, right? And I also really like him too. I've always liked fighters that don't really look like fighters, because I consider myself one of them. Like, I honestly, I have a gut. I have a beer belly, obviously. I'm downing Ballast Point right now.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that, Bellator officials.
No, I always kind of pride myself. I always say that I'm the only world champion with no abs. So I've always been a fan of him because he doesn't have abs.
She's like a big Daniel Cormier fan as well.
Yeah, I like fans that don't have abs. And my theory is that a lot of us have really good cardio, or we could take it to the later rounds because we have a little extra energy in our tank. We have a little fat reserve, That's just my theory.
Can see that.
Example, Kevin
I can go like 10 rounds.
Yeah. So that's why, I've always been a fan of him, and I like the way he fights, and he's a local boy, always repping for Temecula and everything. So and it was pretty unfortunate, especially I wasn't aware that he missed weight so many times until it happened again today, and then I heard about it. So it is very unfortunate. I mean, this guy's missing majority of his fights with Bellator. That's kind of super crazy.
Because if you want to get those big fights, they got to know that you can make weight.
It's catch weight, and he missed it. So I don't know. I think.
And he didn't even come in by 11. He came in at 11:07. And it's not like, the fighters are all staying on property. And not only is it on property, I'm fortunate enough, I'm staying on property. I'm staying in the new tower. It's literally like you just take the elevator down from your room and you turn it's not like he got caught in traffic or I had a 20-minute drive to the sauna. And I'm not trying to pile on Fernando Gonzalez because I like him too. He's got heart. He's fought 40 times. He goes out and puts on shows. So I'm not trying to dog on the guy. It's just, man, when you see that, it's just frustrating, Well,
and then you look at him weighing in, and like I said, he doesn't really look like a fighter, but it's like, brah, you have some pounds to lose. You can focus on your diet a little bit more or whatever, because it's not like you're super shredded and don't have anything to lose. Come on, bro.
Yeah, when TJ Dillashaw says he can get down to flyweight, I'm like, how? Where are you going to lose? Yeah. Fernando Gonzalez, bro, you can make 170.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I was a little disappointed. It was funny, too. So, I don't know if you got to see the ceremonial weigh-in. So, they came in afterwards. I
did see that.
So, they did the face-off. And then, Fernando Gonzalez, after they face off, turns and says, you keep playing games. I'm going to show you how great I am. And it looked like he was talking shit to Lorenz Larkin, which, first of all, I'm just going to say this now. Granted, I'm not a fighter, but I'm just going to institute this rule. If you do not make weight, you do not get to talk shit, right?
Yes.
If you don't make
100%.
weight, you don't get to shove your opponent. You don't get to get in their face. You go there very humble, and you walk up, and you put your eyes down, and you put your hands up, and you just, if they want to, you know what I mean? You can't talk shit. But it turns out he went on Twitter, and I guess he wasn't talking shit to Lorenz. He was saying that Bellator was messing with his money by fining him 20%. Bro,
what? Oh, he said that on Twitter?
He said it on Twitter. He tweeted at Lorenz. It was like, Lorenz, this was not directed at you. This was directed at Bellator. They're messing with my money. Bro, it's the commission. It's the commission.
Exactly.
And nobody's messing with your money. You missed weight. Fernando's got me scratching my head this week. Just got me scratching my head.
I didn't know who he was talking to either.
Right? I thought he was talking trash to Lorenz.
Because he wasn't like looking at Lorenz. He was looking at the audience or like the cameras or something.
Right.
I'm like, wait, so who is that for?
Exactly. And it was funny because even Lorenz kind of like scratched his head and laughed and walked off.
I saw Lorenz in the background.
That was good. All right, co-main event, J.J. Ambrose versus Syed Awad. Syed Awad has been around forever. Kind of an interesting matchup here. J.J. Ambrose has fought in Bellator, but like a long time ago. It's been years, and I think this one kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody really knew what to make of it. J.J. Ambrose is the matchup didn't make a whole lot of sense. Syed Awad did say, "Hey, I appreciate the fact that they're putting me in a co-main event, but it's kind of a weird fight for me." So I don't know. You have any thoughts on this one? It's kind of one of those weird matchups. It looks like it should be fun on paper, but Syed, a guy has fought so many times for Bellator.
Yeah. So, when you guys asked me to do this kind of preview, I'm like, oh, well, I guess I should start doing my research on the fighters so I know who I'm talking about.
It helps.
No, but I actually ended up knowing all of them except for J.J. Ambrose. So the first thing I noticed right off the bat was that he has like really nice hair, right? And then
skillful breakdown here. I mean, this is why we get the champ on.
This is my fight IQ.
It is some pretty fine hair though.
He has some really nice hair.
It's like KJ Noon's level hair, maybe.
He's exactly who I thought.
Yeah.
He looked like. Reminded me of KJ Noon's local boy. So. Yeah, so JJ has really nice hair. Syed is Syed. Sorry, brah. Me and him are friends too, and I don't even know how to pronounce his name.
Nobody does. Sometimes he's Saad, sometimes he's Saeed, right? Sometimes Saad.
And he's bolo head or he's bald.
Right.
So it's like hair versus no hair for this one. Now, but I've always been a really big fan of Syed because he's gnarly. He's so well rounded. Mm-hmm. In his last fight, I think. Well, no, his last fight he knocked the guy out, but his fight before that, who was he fighting? His fight before that, it was all over the place. It was on the ground, it was jiu-jitsu, it was like wrestling, striking.
When he's on point, I mean, he's had some losses, but when he's on point, he's dangerous.
Dope. He's so dope. So I love watching him fight, and yeah, but honestly, I can't tell you anything about JJ except that he has really nice hair and he lives in Guam, which I don't know why he lives in Guam. Like, is he married to an islander or is he part islander himself? He looks white, so I don't know.
If you have hair like that, maybe just find yourself a remote island where you can just kind of pick up all the ladies.
Why would that guy live in Guam?
All right, in the third fight of the night, the main card, Kendall Grove versus AJ Matthews. Yeah, I did definitely want to get this. I'll tell you what, let's do this first because I want to refill my frosty beverage. While we do that, I had a chance to speak to Kendall Grove, and it was a pretty interesting interview, to say the least. It was kind of a little scrum thing, but he was wide open. And before we start talking about Kendall Grove, I want everybody to hear it because, man, this was Kendall Grove at his finest.
Well, Kendall, like I said, it's been a while since we talked. I mean, I'm sure we'd like to be under better circumstances. A couple losses coming in. What's that stretch been like for you, man? Has it been difficult?
What do you mean difficult?
Just dealing with the losses.
Yes and no. Like honestly, I was in good condition, good shape, physically ready. Shlemenko, I lost. Fuck, he got me. My liver still feels it. But my last fight, I did everything right, and John also did too. I hate making excuses, and this is not an excuse. I'm just saying where my state of mind was. I lost my dad unexpectedly, 2-3 months before that. I did his service. I did everything. I was keeping it together for my family, my brother, my sister. I had to put on his service. I honestly never cried. I cried, but I never really let it out, and I never really had a chance to. And I took the fight because I was like, okay, I want to win one for my dad. Maybe I did it premature, fuck it, John Salter. I didn't respect him enough. I knew I respected him, but I didn't, I felt like my will and my heart and my motivation of me winning one for my dad will fucking overcome. And it's just going into after weigh-ins, I cried my eyes out. just because I talked to my dad every fight. I talked to my dad. Even before that, when I fought Flamenco, my grandfather passed away. And then before that, my brother passed away. So within a year, I lost 3 key male role models, figures who I respected, who I loved to death. And just dealing with that, and my brain, I can honestly tell you, like, I wasn't mentally there. Like, physically, I could have fought anybody and possibly won. But just mentally, I was just, I wasn't there, to tell you the truth.
Did you think about pulling out at any point? Did you think, man, I am not in a condition to fight right now?
Honestly, no. Like, I thought I was good, but it's just, afterwards, then I grieved, you know. Then I had a chance to like fucking grieve, because funny but not funny story. Going into my last fight, I had my dad in ashes in a cylinder. Wait till you hear this. We're Native American. My grandfather's from Oklahoma, straight white Okie. We're Cherokee Indians. We're degenerate gamblers. We're on an Indian casino. Perfect. Okay. Kendall, you're up. Put on my dad. He's right here. He's on. I fucking walk out. Salter's right there. He goes out first. I'm standing right here. Okay. Derobe. Okay. Fucking boom. Take off the necklace. Only the top of the cylinder. My dad's gone. So right there, I give my chain to Big Pygmy. You know, Big Pygmy. I give him, he's right there in my corner. He's one of my teammates when I'm out in Oklahoma with Rafael Lovato, who's been a fucking unbelievable help to myself and to my game. And I give it to him. I take off my shirt. Then my head's not in the fight. I'm like, where the fuck's my dad? You know what I mean? Like, oh my God. I start looking around. I'm like fucking running all the way down the hall. Salter's fucking music is going. He's playing, and then they're like, Kendall, oh, what's going on, bro? What's going on? I was like, nothing. Let's go. Walk up to the spot, go out, fight. As soon as, bruh, stood up. Oh, shit. Everything went. I sit up. I see Salter walking. I see Big John. I was like, fuck, what happened? And right there, he looked at me, kind of gave me a nudge, and I was like, fuck it, I know what happened. Right there, I get up, okay, whatever. I look at all my cornermen, they're like, fuck. You know, like any good friend would do, like, fuck it, like, you know, like. But I'm looking at Rafael Lovato Jr., one of the most decorated grapplers who I've been in camp with, who the whole camp, I've never made that mistake. Every time I've been in that position, I went to guard. Look at Saulo Ribeiro. A guy, like, you know, like fucking Mount Rushmore of grapplers. And I'm over here, I get choked out by who's arguably a great grappler, you know? And I have nothing but respect for John. I wish him nothing but the success. Raise his hand. Fuck, boom, I'm gone. Out. Next half an hour, I'm in the back looking for my dad. Where the fuck are you? Where the fuck are you? Then finally, I was like, oh, shit, I got to call my wife. Call my wife. I started crying on the phone. Like, she's like, oh, that's all right, babe. That's all right. Fuck it. Like, fuck it. You don't have to. And I was like, I don't give a fuck. I lost my dad. I lost Papa E. And she's like, wait, what? I was like, yeah. Then I told her the story. She's like, oh, my God. And I was like, I got to go. I just calling you to check in. I'm fine. I'm good. But I'm just finding him. So right there, I end up going. I ended up finding him. His ashes is gone, though. I found the cylinder. But I just thank God for the staff there who was fucking supportive. And, like, I met the head lady of the casino that ran the thing, and she's like, give me your number. We will not stop looking for it. Da-da-da-da-da. And I just thank God, like, an hour later, I found it right before I went upstairs. And I was like, hey, thank you, guys. And, like, sure enough, there's guys with flashlights looking around the whole from my dressing room to the front. And I was like, it couldn't have gone far because I just walked right there. It was on right there. But then, we're degenerate gamblers. We're Native American. And my father's roots is from Oklahoma. So I thought I like to believe that it was him that unscrewed himself and fuck yeah. He's like, I'm good, son. I got booze, I got gambling, and every once in a while I got hookers.
That's amazing, man.
No, well, but like that's just me telling you straight out. Like physically, I was in the best shape of my life. Like I had a great camp with Rafael, But I was just telling you where my mental state was at that time, you know. But like, I lost. I went in there. I could have easily said, "Hey, fuck this," but I'm not good. But you know, I did it, and that's what happens. I got choked out. Fuck it. Here I am right now.
Say, have you had time? I mean, that's a lot of loss.
Yeah,
Have you had time to process it and get your head back to the
Yeah,
spot?
yeah. I made peace with it. You know, yeah. I have conversations with my dad. You know, obviously, but I just told him, okay, fuck it. Stop being a dick. Let me be cool. You know, stop making me all emotional. And then like I haven't been. You know. Like, not once. Just in the beginning of this, I almost teared up when I was about to tell you the story. But other than that, like, no, I'm good. So I know I'm good. I know I'm good. I know I can go out there and do my thing the correct way.
Very
but,
nice.
Yeah, excited. Can't wait, you know, get back in there. I'm coming off of 2 losses. He's coming off of 4, which I thought he won his last one, hands down. But it did go to decision. You know, there's ups and downs. He did drop him more. And but he is coming off of 4. I'm coming off of 2 against Shlamenko and John, and I have no choice but to think we're a fucking chopping block, both of us, you know. So, like I told Big John, in my career I've done well when my back's against the wall. I've like a fucking scared lion, you know. Don't fuck with me because I got 6 kids. I need this job.
Well, talk about kind of where you're at right now, because I mean, obviously you've been doing this game for a long, long time. You're coming up on like 15 years as a pro. You're a family man. You got a big family. I mean, where are you at?
Yeah, you know, a lot of fighters that don't talk about retirement until you retire. I'm almost done. I'm gonna fight out this contract and probably be done. This might be my last one. I don't know. I don't know how I feel. You know, it's just how I feel at the time. Will I make a rational decision? We'll find out. No, but I'm happy with what I've done in this sport. I think if you build a Mount Rushmore for Hawaii MMA, I think I represent Maui well. Fucking Max. But he's doing well, you know. But I like to believe that Egan and Ensign kind of paved Falanico, Ronald Jun kind of paved that way. Obviously BJ was that new breed, and I came right after BJ, and then now Max, Yancey, Russell, Lewis, all these guys, and the best is yet to come. But I feel fucking 15 years in this game is a long time. Add on a wife, on top of that, boom, throwing 6 kids, 3 in school, 3 out of school. You know, 12 to 1 years old. And they're all active in sports. I'm a hands-on father, which helps me and also hinders me at some times, you know. But my kids didn't ask to be here, you know. So I got to take care of them, and I'm doing it the best way I know how.
You still love the sport right now?
Hey, fuck, I will love this sport to the day I die. But I'm happy with what I did. Like I don't know if it will hinder me or people will think less of me if I say I don't give a fuck about a title. That's fucking out of reach. I'm like, this game is young bucks, you know, like I've been knocked out X amount of times. You know, I've been choked out X amount of times. I had wars X amount of times. My body doesn't react the same way like how it did 10 years ago. Like I said, people might look at this and be like, he's fucking done. Maybe I am. But I get to do it again tomorrow night. So go fuck yourselves. Don't hate. I'm still doing it.
So what's on the line here for you then? I mean, is this about just having fun, or do you feel like there's consequences? Or?
Yeah, like I said, there is. Like I came off of 2 losses. You know, I got finished my both fights. I can't justify it by saying it was from Shlamenko, who was the former champ. Or it was from John Salter, who's fucking the #1 contender. Like, you still lost, asshole. You know? And in the game of competitive sports, winning is everything. I've tasted that. I've been on the receiving end of that. I've seen sponsors want to give me everything, back me. I lose. They turn their backs on me. They fucking on to the next one. I ain't hurt feelings. Maybe a little, but not too much. But I understand. That's the game. Like, fuck. If you can't handle the game, get the fuck out. I stayed in this game for as long as I could for me. And I dealt with it the way I dealt with it because the way I am. And, you know, like I said, fuck it. I got one more tomorrow.
Welcome back to the MMA Roadshow. That was Kendall Grove. So Kendall Grove opening up about literally everything there. I mean, kind of admitting the fact that he's ready to walk away and he knows that his career is almost over, which I got to say, I respect that. I mean, it's honest. You know what I mean? It's hiding the truth. And he's been doing this for 15 years. He's got nothing left to prove. Give me you coming up, you know, in the Hawaiian scene. Talk to me about what Kendall, because you know, I think if you're a new fan of MMA, like if you're just getting into it, you might not realize who Kendall Grove is, or you might just look at his record and go, you know. But I mean, to me, Kendall has been one of those guys I've loved following his career, and I feel like he was, you know, he kind of joked about, you know, that Max Holloway has stolen the crest, and you know, of course, BJ Penn was the one, and then there were the people before him. But Kendall feels like he's like, hey man, I feel like I have a nice little place on that lineage as well. Do you think that's accurate?
Oh, 100%. You know, Kendall's going to be one of the greats, one of the legends from Hawaii. You know, one of the pioneers of the sport. He paved the way for us fighters. You know, I remember before my Bellator debut, which was maybe 2.5 years ago, which was at Pechanga, actually. So that's why I have a little connection to Pechanga. I actually met Kendall at a convention in Anaheim. And I went up to him. And this was when I was, you know, I'm about to make my debut with Bellator. And I see Kendall, and I'm just like, oh, my gosh. He was with Tito. And I went up to them.
Kind of fangirled out a little bit.
Yeah, and I went up to them, and I introduced myself. I was like, yeah, you know, I'm actually going to be making my debut with Bellator next week. It was a week before the fight, you know. And it was really cool. It's kind of like it came full circle, because when I saw him over here at Pechanga just yesterday, he's like, hey, what's up, Hoy? And I'm like, oh my gosh, he knows who I am. You know? So it was so cool. It's just like, you know, now he is the one that is saying, hey, what's up, girl? How are you? So it was super cool. And, you know, I just appreciate so much what he's done for the sport, not just for, you know, male fighters from Hawaii, but for women too from Hawaii, just all fighters from Hawaii. And, yeah, you know, I think that the hardest part about this sport is knowing when to walk away. And I totally respect anybody who's like, yeah, you know, I think this is it.
Yep. That's awesome, man. 6 kids, dude. I God bless him just for that, you know.
Yeah.
What the hell is it about Hawaii? I mean, it is. I mean, we always joke about it. I mean, the UFC is finally talking about going to an event out there and everything. But I mean, the fighting culture has been there forever. I mean, you go back to the Super Brawl days way back in the day, and of course, then as we said, BJ Penn was, you know, the torchbearer for a while, and now Max Holloway, and of course, Yancy Medeiros, and you know, some of those other crew that are out there right now. What is it about it? Because I mean, I've been to Hawaii once when I was 8 years old, but I can tell you I didn't understand the fighting culture at that. But why is it? Is it just something that? Because it's almost like a cliche, right? Like, you know, they fight and this. I mean, why is it so embraced there?
I think it definitely goes back to our history, first of all, you know, the illegal overthrow of it. Well, you know, being warriors is part of our DNA. You know, our ancestors, the ancient Hawaiians, they were warriors. And so that definitely... it's part of our DNA.
You can thank Anthony for bringing another fresh.
Thank you for my fresh beer. Sorry, I mouthed thank you.
Ballast Point, fantastic.
No. But it's for sure part of our blood. It's part of our DNA, and I think it actually represents something a little deeper than that. Like fighting in the cage is almost a metaphor for the fight that we are still going through as a nation, as a Hawaiian nation.
Yeah.
You know, we are still fighting as Native Hawaiians. We are still fighting against the system. We're still fighting for our land. You know, there's freaking all these haoles or foreigners who are coming in, buying the land. Like we Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders are actually the most impoverished population in Hawaii, in our own home. There are so many that are homeless, live beneath the poverty line. The education system is terrible. Drugs and alcohol is super rampant, you know, violence in the household. So it's like we're still fighting to this day just to live. And so that I think that's why it's so ingrained in us.
So you do connect very much to like the Native Americans and the plight that's
Our
here.
histories are completely parallel.
Yeah.
Like down to how they took away the children, separated the children from their parents, put them in boarding schools, like would punish you if you spoke your language. Actually, it was crazy, not to get too crazy and political.
No, it was kind of funny because I'm kind of glad you're going this way, but I didn't want, I didn't know how far you wanted to go.
Yeah.
But I kind of like it because the BJ Pins iconic walkout song, right? I didn't realize until like a couple years ago that I actually like read the lyrics to it and like read what it meant, and I was like, I never realized it was a protest song. His last fight, I'll never forget. They hung the Hawaiian flag upside down in his corner.
Mourning.
And I remember looking at Jason Perillo because I didn't understand it, right? And I thought they just made a mistake.
It's a mistake.
Yeah, and no, I was on press row. Like, I was on press row, so I was literally like 3 feet away because they were on my side. And I was trying to tell him, like, hey, bro, like, you know what I mean? Like, because I thought they just accidentally, like, messed up. And I was like, make sure you fix that. I didn't realize, like, how much is going on?
Yeah, so for the listeners, when you hang the Hawaiian flag upside down, it means that you're in mourning. So it's basically equivalent to half-mast of the American flag. That's what it means. So, there's a lot of problems that we're still facing today as Hawaiian people. In fact, so I was saying, like, just yesterday or just today, there was a warrant out for a man's arrest in Hawaii for a professor because he spoke Hawaiian in a court hearing, which is insane because the Hawaiian language and the English language are actually the official languages of Hawaii.
Right.
So there's like no legal or there's no way that he can be penalized for this when that's the official language of Hawaii. Why are you being penalized for speaking your own native tongue? So it was just crazy, so those are just some of the examples of like shit we're still facing.
That's great. I appreciate you sharing that because I'm not the most political guy in the world, but I do always like to hear kind of where people are coming from and what they're dealing with. So all right, let's talk about Kendall Grove in this fight. AJ Matthews, Kendall Grove has not had the best track record as of late, but again we're finding out now what he's going through, the loss of his father. AJ Matthews does have a fantastic mustache. I don't know if that's going to factor in.
Oh my gosh,
the Patrick Cummins,
Dude, AJ has seriously put me on such a roller coaster of emotions. So I found out he had a girlfriend. So I was originally rooting for him for this fight. But then
I totally forgot you're like in love with him, right?
Yeah. And
I totally forgot that.
I call him out in every single interview.
I totally forgot that.
I tag him on social media. I'm like, hey, AJ, like, what's up? What are you doing? And he comes back. He's like, oh, I thought you were joking. I'm like, bruh, how much more
totally
aggressive do I need to be like, hey, like, let's get together. But then I found out he had a girlfriend. I'm like, nah, I'm not even gonna.
And he's facing Hawaiian right now.
Yeah, so I'm like, I'm going for Kendall. Sorry, bro.
What about the? All right, so I mean, the mustache? Is that like a deal breaker, or does that like secure the deal?
I don't know. I wasn't really feeling the facial hair, especially because he pulls his Asian genes, so it's a little there's like some missing spots to it and everything. So I don't know if I really like it. I liked his long hair that he used to do that he would put up in a ponytail, but yeah, I don't know if I'm feeling the
Pat Cummins was rocking the mustache better, right?
Yeah, that was dope.
It totally fits Pat Cummins. Well, I listen. Kendall Grove, he's only got 1 fight, 2 fight, maybe 3 fights left at most. No offense to perhaps the Mr. Future Ilima-Lei Macfarlane. I don't know how you would say that, but no offense to AJ Matthews, but I would like to see Kendall Grove.
I would make him take my last name too.
Yeah,
it's AJ Macfarlane. Yeah.
All right, and the main card kicks off with Steve Cazzola versus Jake Smith. By the way, I should say I forgot who it was because are you going to corner somebody?
Yes, I'm actually cornering my teammate Julio Aguilera. He's
on
the prelims.
Okay, yeah.
But he might be on the blackout fights, the ones after the main card, so you might not see him.
But you're actually, because I saw on the weigh-ins today, you were up there, you were actually like, picking the stuff up off the floor.
Yeah.
So you're actually going to corner?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Well, I mean, that's the plan, but who knows? I might be too drunk, so there might be...
God bless.
Sorry, Julio. No. If you're on the blackout fights, then yeah, I'll be way too drunk.
MMA Roadshow, definitely. All right, Steve Cazzola, Jake Smith. What can you tell me about these two? Anything that stuck out of these two? They're kicking off the main card.
Oh, so I know Steve because he used to train with us. He's also reps 10th Planet Oceanside, which is our sister school from 10th Planet San Diego. So, yeah, definitely, I think he's great, very well-rounded himself. He likes to bang, but he also trains at a very high-level jiu-jitsu school. And the other guy, I have no idea who he is.
Perfect.
But I did notice that he looked pretty, ugh, when he came up for his weigh-ins, like the way he was standing was
like too intense. Like you don't like that.
I don't know. I mean, he looked like he was pretty shredded.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that'll be a good one. But okay, so even though I talk shit about, or I was talking shit on AJ and everything, like I think I'm actually really excited for that fight. Like this is my actual 2 cents from a fighter's perspective on that one. I think that's going to be a super dope scrap because both of these guys, they just like to scrap. Obviously, Kendall's from Hawaii. He's down for whatever's. AJ, I think they're both coming off of losses actually. And AJ's last fight was one that I did not think he lost. Like I totally thought it was a decision.
I think even Kendall said that. He's like I think he won his last fight.
And you know, all of AJ's fights have always just been scraps. Like he's totally down. He comes forward. You know, he has that really good Muay Thai background and just, you know, throw those low leg kicks, whatever. So that's the fight that I'm looking forward to the most on this card. And it's not because I want to marry AJ or because Kendall's from Hawaii. Like, it's because these guys are, like, really going to put on a show for it. So I'm really pumped for that one.
Can we say what else you lost in the fire? You lost your personal belongings, right?
Yes.
You lost, like, literally. So you said you lost your belt. You said you lost your clothes, everything that was with you.
Yeah.
But that included your ID. That included
and my
your wallet.
Passport.
Your passport.
Which... I've traveled to probably like 10 countries
right.
in the past 2 years.
Right.
And so now I'm just like, now I got to go back. I got to go back to all these countries now.
So I got to ask, because you said this, you know, while we were listening to the Kendall Grove interview, you said, and I got to ask if you really did this, because if you did, this is a gangster move. Now, you don't have an ID. You don't have a passport. So you're at Bellator 192 last week.
Yep.
And you're going to buy a frosty beverage, as you do when you're at fights.
Yes.
And they ID you, which I can't blame them. I would ID you as well. And you don't have an ID, and you said what?
Okay, so by the way, this is in the VIP section, right? So I have like my VIP credentials.
Okay.
I have my VIP badge.
Right.
And I go to buy a beer. They ID me. I'm like, hey, so I have a temporary paper license from the DMV. Here it is. It doesn't have a picture, but I also have a picture of my ID on my phone. I come prepared, you know, so that I can buy alcohol.
Trust me.
So
I make
I
efforts.
have a
I'm with
picture
you.
on my phone. And I'm like, here you go. Here's all my ID cards. Like, this is me. The guy would not sell me. I'm like, so I start kind of getting a little pissed because I need my beer. I'm like, excuse me, can you look up there? Do you see those banners? Do you see that championship row? I am there. That is me on the banner. And you're not going to sell me beer? So I'm like making a big
So you really did that? I didn't know if you were just pulling my leg.
No, I totally did that. And then I was pulling a big sting. And then actually the guy behind me was a fan. He's like, oh, like, it's okay. I'll buy you beer. I'm like, oh. Well, maybe this worked out because now I don't have to spend my own money. Okay, yes, buy me a beer, please.
That is amazing. I will say, first of all, that story is phenomenal. But I will say, that row of champions, that banner row of champions, I'm telling you, I mean, not that we always have to compare Bellator and UFC, but I'm talking about just any, as far as I'm concerned, any MMA organization out there should do that. Like, promote your champions. Like, not, obviously, you know, you're only going to get 1, maybe 2 champions fighting a night, even on a big night. So how else can you promote your champions, you know, at all times? And to have, you know, those banners hanging up in the rafters, I think Bellator, that they have killed it on that because they do it in the arena shows. It'll be hanging in Pechanga tomorrow night. Like, they do it at the small. I think that is so cool. And it's, I don't know, it's impressive. And then, you know, if you're one of those people that goes, wow, the UFC is the end all be all and Bellator is the second tier. Dude, when you look at that list of people that are Bellator title holders and you look, you're like, that's pretty damn impressive, man. I think that's awesome. It's got to, so for you to look up there and see that, it's got to be a little sense of pride.
Oh, it was amazing when I saw it because this was the first fights that they put it up for, right? Or at least the ones that I'd been to since my fight. So yeah, it was so dope. And Bellator is really cool. They let me take all of my memorabilia, pretty much. So like, in one of the fights, I was on the banner inside the cage. I'm like, hey, can I take them back to my gym? So they peeled, like the workers went in, they peeled all them off and gave them to me. So, I mean, if the day comes where, God forbid, I lose my belt, I'm going to be like, hey, can I take my world champ banner though?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool seeing me up there.
I always ask this, and you're in a unique position because you came into a division that Bellator had before the UFC. But here's the thing I always say. When people say, where's Bellator? Because we know Bellator's making moves. They're doing big things. But the UFC has had this huge head start, right? The one thing I always say is there's no, like, 15-year-old kid, like, lacing up his gloves going, I'm going to be a Bellator world champion, right? I mean, like, everybody at the end of the day says, I want to be a UFC champion. But you're a Bellator world champion, and you did it in a weight class before there was even the UFC. So what's your mindset like? I mean, is there ever a day that you're like, oh, you know, I got to cross over someday? Or do you feel like, My life is pretty damn well complete right now.
Dude, honestly, I love Bellator. And I love the fact that I grew with them. You know, they were the ones that signed me when I only had the soccer mom fight. Like, what organization in their right mind would sign someone who had the soccer mom fight?
Right.
But you know, they saw something in me. They wanted to grow me, and I'm so grateful for Bellator. You know, and I also think that they're on the up and coming. You know, there you see so many big, not even just UFC fighters, but like big name UFC fighters. Benson Henderson, Rory McDonald. You see them coming up, big country. They're coming over to Bellator, and there must be a reason why they're coming over, you know? And so, you know, I think that Bellator is definitely on the rise right now. And I'm super grateful to be a part of that first wave of women. I consider myself a pioneer, honestly, in that sense. And so, you know, people always ask me, well, are you going to go over to the UFC eventually? What's your deal with that? And I'm like, dude, I'm loyal to Bellator. I'm so close with everyone here. The staff is super cool. We're like a small little family. I'm cool with all the fighters. However, if the UFC were to offer me like a couple $1 million, then I would be a fool to say no. So if UFC guys, you guys are listening, I need a couple million.
You know, I'll tell you what, and you talk about like kind of coming up with them. I mean, like, I think that's one thing Bellator has done a fantastic job of, is identifying talent early on. You know, I don't know how early you got there the other night in LA, but like Joey Davis, that dude fought on the prelims. He was undefeated as a collegiate. He fought on the prelim against Ian Butler. He had the 39-second spinning kick.
Yeah.
Guy was undefeated as a collegiate wrestler, and now he's knocking people out with spinning kicks to the liver. You know what I mean? Yeah. Aaron Pico, of course. I mean, that performance was insane. You know, identifying people early on. And this card this week, we've got Tyrell and Tyree Fortune. With Tyrell Fortune, it looks like a beast at heavyweight. I mean, I think they're doing I think they're literally outperforming the UFC right now in that. Like, they are finding people very, very on. And I think their talent identification, and maybe it's because they get the flexibility of, like, you know, when you come into the UFC, you're supposed to be UFC ready or whatever. You know, maybe you get a little more flexibility with Bellator, but that's dangerous, because if you start getting people that you're the one that gave them the chance, and now they have that brand, you know, loyalty. Yeah, I think that's dangerous. I think there could start being a little swing.
Yeah, I agree 100%. You know, it's rare that you see the UFC sign somebody who has, you know, just a couple fights. I mean, if anything, this last season of The Ultimate Fighter was kind of the first time you saw that. You know, all of us were wondering, like, why are they signing a girl with a losing record? You know, so that was kind of the first example that I saw. Right. So yeah, I think Bellator does a fantastic job of finding talent early. Scott has done amazing, especially for women's MMA. You know what he did with Strikeforce. So yeah, I'm super grateful for Bellator. I love being with them. I feel like I'm almost one of their poster children. True. For the division. So yeah, I love it.
What do you think about the World Grand Prix? I'm intrigued by it, man. World Grand Prix, the Heavyweight Grand Prix. I'm intrigued by this. I love this thing. It's bizarre, but to me, it's the right amount of bizarre. Like, it's just the right amount of crazy. It's kind of this open weight Grand Prix. You saw Chael beat Rampage the other night. Now Chael's going to get the winner of Frank Mir versus Fedor Emelianenko. Yep. It's crazy. So you saw the first fight. What are your thoughts about the whole thing as a whole?
Yeah, and you know, like you said, it seems crazy, but part of the reason why people fell in love with fighting back in the old day in the first place was because it was so crazy. It was like, why is this huge guy going against, you know, that's why people were drawn to the sport. So I think it totally makes sense, you know, besides being crazy, it makes sense. And it also threw me for a loop. I totally had Rampage winning.
I did too.
I thought he was going to win.
Yeah, I did too. I did. Going in, I thought the same thing.
Going in, thought he was going to win. So that totally changes things, even though that was only the first fight. Yep. So it just definitely makes things very interesting. I'm excited. I'm actually very excited to see how the other matches go. You know, is the next one going to be... It's not Fedor versus Frank Mir.
Yeah, I think Fedor Mir is the next one, right?
Okay.
Yep. Oh, no.
Mitrione, right?
Nelson Mitrione is first. That's in February. Yeah, that's in February.
Is that the Mohegan?
Yep, that'll be in Mohegan.
Okay.
Yep, and then then
I think it's April.
And then April. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh no. Yeah, and then because then Bader King Mo is May in San Jose.
Gotcha.
And I did hear, by the way, that they're trying to add a few more events in that. If things go the way they'd like for them to go, that Bellator, Bader versus King Mo, May 12th, San Jose would be Bellator 200.
Bellator's what?
200.
Oh.
If they can make it. But they're trying to plug in a couple little dates here and there that may work. You know how that is. They're trying to get venues done. They're trying to, So there's going to be a few more. But if it works out, that will be Bellator 200. So kind of crazy how fast that's
cool.
happening.
I want to try to go to as many fights as possible. Like even if I'm not on the card, it's so much fun going to the fight, seeing all the other fighters. Everyone's so cool. You know, I mean, if Bellator wants to give me a free room, then I'm gonna go to the fight. So
damn straight. All right, well listen, dude, we could just sit here and talk fights all night. Frosty beverages are flowing, talking fights. It's been awesome talking to you. But what we gotta do right now, we gotta shift it out to North Carolina. There's a UFC show going on. I know. Who even knows about that organization, right? No, but Cold Coffee is out in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's been handling business out there, and he is going to give us an update on what's happening out there with Jacare versus Brunson 2, and seeing our man behind the camera getting out there doing interviews and getting some great quotes along the way. It's been fun to watch him. So we'll check back after we hear him from Cold Coffee in North Carolina.
All right. Well, thank you, John. And, we'll pick it up here in Charlotte, North Carolina, where it's actually pretty nice. The temperature has been in the 40s and 50s for the most part, so it's been pretty nice. But things have been good. And I'll just right from the top, welcome to the podcast. Once again, the man of crazy stories and crazy madness, Fiasco.
Auga.
That was wonderful.
Yes.
That was very, very nice. If you could
surprise, right?
You're sitting in a recliner. You look so proper over there. You got my fake tinsel and what do you call those? There's pine cones and cranberries. It's like we're in an Airbnb here in Charlotte, and it has very. The decor is very interesting. It's sort of holiday mode.
It's definitely a holdover from Christmas. Definitely.
What if he leaves it like this all the time? And it's just like crazy, weird, festive something or other. I don't know.
I wouldn't put it past him.
It's very unique. But yeah, another decent little place that that I'm staying at here in Charlotte, kind of in the downtown or the uptown area, which is like the downtown area, which is close to the Spectrum and where the venue and stuff is. So, the host hotel is kind of off in the middle of nowhere, and it was a little too pricey for our budget, so I found an Airbnb place, and that's where we are recording this podcast from now, in the little living room.
It's a very tiny space.
Very tiny space, but
and the more I think about it, I feel like the art style is also takes a lot of hints from like a TGI Fridays. It's a lot of inconsistent. Just like here's a thing, here's a mirror, just laying on the wall, an
next
arrow,
to another mirror on the wall.
Yeah, and a red arrow pointing up to nothing.
But it's at a slight angle, so there's probably some real meaning to that.
Yeah, maybe. But it's kind of scary, though.
It is kind of scary.
It scares me.
So I got in Wednesday morning. I took a red eye out late Tuesday at a nice 1 a.m. and then got in Wednesday and went straight rolling hot into interviews. When we get a chance to come out here, we set up some extra interviews. And this time I set up interviews with Derek Brunson, Bobby Green, Mirsad Bektik, Andre Fili, and I believe one other one, who I can't remember right now.
Yeah, I don't even know. I can't remember who I saw you with either.
It's been a blur. It's been like
you didn't do Dennis?
No, Dennis actually came in, and I was trying not to make too much contact because I didn't want him to am I doing an interview with you? And I was like, no, sorry, I'm actually getting your competitor.
I'm not.
But I was like, it was great seeing you. We did catching Dennis today at the open workouts, but we got a bunch of audio I want to roll with you. It's kind of interesting with John not here, me having to kind of fill in and do the lead interview roles. I'm much more comfortable being behind the camera and away from the limelight, even though I was a theater major.
Trust
used
me,
to being on the stage.
We've all noticed John's absence. We felt it.
You felt it.
In just
There's a vacuum. There's a giant vacuum. There's a void,
Just your questions were just, what? Really, Kenny?
I know, right?
Those are my questions. The questions I asked, and my questions are garbage.
That's why we're behind the camera all the
exactly.
time. So, but it's been fun. It's a learning process. It's something I get trying to work on, trying to get a little bit better. It's different. When we do interviews, like for the UFC, it was always you don't have to really hit to the point. You just want the fluff pieces. You just want to get the video going.
Right.
But after actually having to do some research and look for those points. Without just towing the company line. It's definitely a different switch. But it's been a good process. So I'd love to play some interviews and stuff that we've got from this event. You know me, I'm not going to sit here and break down the crazy cards or do other stuff. So later on, you're going to hear from Tyron Woodley. We actually got to see him and got a little health update for him. We actually got him to break down the card a little bit. But I figured I'd play some of these audios that we got so you can kind of hear the discussions that happened with the fighters and stuff, and then we could talk a little bit more. But a camp that I have a lot of respect for and that does great things is Team Alpha Male. And we got to sit down with Andre Fili and talk about this fight against Dennis Bermudez. I think this is one of those fights I think could be a whole heck of a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Did you interview both these guys here for this event, or did you do either one of them?
I have a separate story about that, which if it's a digression, but yeah, I did, but not about their fights.
Well, now I got to know what's the other story.
So we're in the pre-production phase of, or I guess it's the production phase of the new Rising Stars episodes, and so we're featuring Brian Ortega, who is a featherweight and so we had Andre and Dennis both talk about, and the whole idea is to essentially boost this guy's profile.
Right.
So you're kind of pumping him up, and both Andre and Dennis are like, "What? So you want me to hype this guy? Like I'm the number one, I'm the best featherweight. You want me to talk about this guy?" They're both good sports about it, but there was a point where Andre's like, "Seriously, how many more questions do you have about fucking Brian Ortega?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, just a couple more."
So who picks these guys?
It's an internal thing.
It's you guys pick it, or somebody comes to you and says, "Hey."
No, it's a bigger kind of like it was definitely kind of on that committee level of like you throw in a bunch of names on and determine which ones are making best guesses of who's on a winning streak, who's the more hyped person, mm-hmm. Who has the most potential, and then it's kind of like, well, all right, we're gonna put our eggs in this basket, and that happens at a higher level, but it is definitely collaborative. So you can jump in and throw your ideas. Like I think this guy should be considered. Well,
it's good. I mean, especially because you guys are on the ground and you kind of feel the pulse of what fighters are easy to work with, some that are fun, and some that'll give you good stuff. So you can probably suggest. But I think that also kind of sheds a light on a lot of these guys are always like, man, why does one guy always get pumped up and not others?
Yeah.
And here's you're kind of revealing behind the curtain. There's discussion. People are like, well, who do we think right now is the guy? And having discussions of actually like who you guys want to pump forward.
I mean, the thing is that I don't think it's that mysterious. Honestly, I think that most fans, if they had, like who would you say are up and comers, like the guy who has the next possible, if maybe not the next contender fight, but you think this guy's top of the heap material. Most people can like list off who they think in any division, or even just as a whole, as like just UFC fighters. So I don't think that we're really surprising anyone with our picks. Like Brian Ortega, I don't think if you said he's a rising star, you're like, oh yeah, he is. That's not controversial.
Sure.
So
that's true. Well, I think this is an interesting fight. Bermudez has coming in here. He's lost his last two. I think it puts a lot of pressure on him to get a big win. But I think Fili realized this, and this is Fili's fight after that. Were you there when he fought Artem?
Yes.
And there was the whole scene that was playing out with
McGregor
Conor
scene,
and stuff. So I had him talk a little bit about that and and the pressures and that sort of stuff. And it was really kind of fun hearing about that. So it should be a very, very interesting fight. But enough me rambling about it. Here's a little audio, or the full audio, because I'm too lazy to cut this shit down, let's be real. And that's why this might be the longest episode ever.
You don't go and sell into that. You don't go selling that in there.
Wow.
You let people watch, and as they're like excited, they're like, please don't end, and it just won't.
It doesn't. This will never end. But here, let's play a little bit of Andre Fili, and you can take a listen to this thing. I think he's excited for this fight, and I think it could be a lot of fun, but I'll let you be the judge. Here's Andre Fili. What's funny, I'm looking, and it's your 10th fight with UFC, if I'm counting correctly.
10.
And it's funny because I feel like when we first saw you, you were this young kid, upcoming, and now it's been like 4 years. I mean, how has life changed for you from what you saw then, what we were going through, to where you are now?
It's still the same journey. It's had ups and downs, but everything has just changed for the better, really. I mean, I've had a hard learning curve. You know, I've fought some of the best guys in the division, and I've won some fights. I've lost some fights. I feel like I've grown. I've just grown a lot, you know, and I'm back to having fun. I started treating this like a job. I started treating it like a 9 to 5, and I wasn't really having fun, and I was just sort of doing it to get through it and pay the bills. But I'm back to enjoying it again. You know, I like fell back in love with it and remembered that. Like I started doing this when I was 14 or 15, and my dream was to be in the UFC and be a world champion. And you know, I'm right on track. Like I'm right where I want to be, like where I'm supposed to be. And some people never get that chance. You know, some people go their whole lives without being right where they're supposed to be. And like, I'm blessed, lucky, whatever you want to call it. I'm just thankful to be in this spot. You know, and having fun again. You know, like I have great coaches, a great team, and there's a lot of stuff outside of fighting too that's just better. Like my lifestyle is just better. You know, when I first got to the UFC, I was still partying a little bit. I was still getting in trouble. I was still not focused. I had all these other distractions around me, you know, and now it's like, dude, I hang out. Like I have a solid girlfriend. I have a cute puppy, and I barely leave my house. If I'm not at the gym, I'm home. Like that's it, you know. If I'm not at the gym, I'm in bed reading comic books and hanging out with my girlfriend and my dog. Like my life is so focused right now.
Well, that's got to be probably one of those tough balances because you're treating it such like a professional. You got to do this, you got to do this, and maybe that's why it switched and it felt like, all right, it's a job, it's a business, and maybe that's why you lost a little bit of that fun side of it because you had to focus on those things. So it's almost like you have to do that, right?
Yeah, but it's almost like it seems counterintuitive, but it's almost like the more focused you get, the more fun it is, if that makes sense. Because you know, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's like the more I was partying and the more I was doing the other stuff, and not even necessarily partying, but being distracted and having these other things, that was like, I had all these other things to fill this void, you know, and then it was like, and I fight because that's what pays my bills. I had all this other shit that was like distracting me, but it's like the more that I focused on fighting, the more I realized like, dude, fighting fills the void. Fighting is the thing that makes me happy. Like I don't need anything else. Like I don't need the other stuff. Like I don't need to party. I don't need to get in trouble. I don't need to go out. I don't need this longing for like the next cool thing. Like I'm a professional fighter. Like what's cooler than that? Like I love MMA, and the more focused I get on MMA, the more focused I get on my career, the less it feels like a job. You know what I mean? The less it feels like a thing I have to go do and something that I get to do.
Well, speaking of looking like you were having some fun, your last victory against Artem, you know, besides the pressures of dealing with one of these guys that, you know, comes from Conor's camp, you know, and people are hyping up and all this stuff, you had Conor as well, cage side, right. You know, and there was interactions between you and him as well during the fight, you know. Yeah. I think a lot of people would see that as all this extra pressure. You already had this fight going on, but then now you have these other interactions. Yeah. When you dealt with that and you were able to come away with such an impressive win, what did you learn or take away about yourself and how you deal with situations when you sat back and thought about what played out that night?
Yeah, two things. The fact that Artem was from Conor's gym never really played into me. Like, if there's any pressure, it's from my own team. Like, I train with champions. I train with world champions. Like, I'm from a lineage of dudes who are the baddest motherfuckers in the sport. Like, if there's pressure, it's to keep up with them, to not, you know what I mean, to not fall behind. If there's pressure, it's on I put on myself to kind of hold the team up. You know what I mean? Like, I'm supposed to be the next generation of this sort of dynasty. Like I'm that's all I give a shit about. I don't care about anybody else's team. Like my team's consistently been one of the best teams in the world, you know. Like before I got there, they were the best team in the world. So like, you know, who like I'm trying to make sure that I represent, you know what I mean? Like that's the pressure I feel. I don't give a shit about anybody else's team. As far as Conor, you know, making a big scene, a big spectacle of it, I loved it. Like I love it. I really fucking enjoy confrontation. Like I really enjoy that feeling of like, all right, we're in a fight. Like we're not playing a game of basketball. Like we're not you know, I'm saying we're not doing some other sport. We're not even playing football. We're not playing even hockey where it's a contact. We are in a fight. Like there's nothing else to do but be in a fight. Like that's why this sport is so pure, and like I just enjoy that confrontation, you know. So Conor making a big spectacle, I loved it, man. I even in the moment, I loved it. Like I just enjoy that. Like I enjoy confrontation. I enjoy fighting. I enjoy causing a scene, and everybody is looking in, like just on the edge of their seat, you know, to see what's gonna happen. So I enjoyed the whole process. It was a reminder to me, you know, it kind of put a stamp on things and confirmed that, you know, I love this. Like, I love doing this. I love confrontation. I love hitting someone. I love getting hit back and looking at him like, bro, you can't hurt me, and hitting him harder. You know, like I fucking love fighting, man. Like, and that whole experience in Poland was just like a really great reminder.
And your millionaire strat, I think that's what they call it.
Yeah, the billionaire strut.
Strut.
Well, Connor was looking over at me, and I had to show him, like, not tonight, motherfucker. Like, you might think you're the coolest motherfucker in the room, but I'm the coolest motherfucker in the room. You know what I'm saying? You got to let people know.
I love it.
But nothing but respect. Those guys. Artem was a good opponent. You know, Connor's done a lot for the sport, but in that moment, like, I gotta let him know I'm the fucking man. You know?
I dig it. Well, you kind of touched on alpha male, and I wanted to touch on that as well. So, I know there's been some reorganization, you know, or some degree, but what is it? Tell me what's going on there right now. Like, who's running the show? How has the structure of practices changed? I know there's, I guess, more individual head coaches of different disciplines, but
yeah, I mean, we've always sort of had like a co-op thing, you know, like even before we had anybody that was a coach, like we just had, it was sort of like, to me, I've always sort of looked at it like a trade. Like you have you have masters and apprentices sort of passing down knowledge, and you know the guys who always looked out for me are like big brothers, and now those guys are in coaching positions, and I have younger kids sort of looking at me like a big brother, which is a weird feeling, you know. But it's like, you know, business as usual. My wrestling coach Danny Castillo runs a lot of the practices. He runs wrestling and MMA practices. You know, we have Uriah running some pro practices, and he does a lot of submission grappling stuff. And then we also have Chris Holdsworth doing jiu-jitsu and MMA classes. So it's really this cool system that we have worked out where it's like, you know, obviously certain guys have certain strong points, but I mean, they're all well-rounded. I mean, you look at Chris Holdsworth, he's a high-level black belt, but he was kicking people in the head when he was, you know, he won the Ultimate Fighter. He was kicking people in the head and beating their ass, you know, sticking the jab. I mean, he knows how to, he could, like we have, that's the thing about our team is Chris Holdsworth is the head jiu-jitsu coach, but he can run a kickboxing class if the kickboxing coach isn't there to fill in, you know what I'm saying? Justin Buckles is running kickboxing, but for whatever reason, if he's on a fight trip, Chris Holdsworth can run kickboxing, you know, and Danny, my wrestling coach, he can run a pro class, you know what I mean? Faber can run jiu-jitsu, even though he usually runs MMA class. I mean, it's really a co-op, like Faber says. He always talking about how it's a co-op. You know, we're all helping out, and people do have assigned roles, but I think just because we have such a wealth of knowledge, everybody sort of transcends their job a little bit. You know what I mean?
Who's going to be out here with you for this fight?
This fight, I have Danny Castillo, I have Fabio Prado, and those two have been in my corner. I think the first time they cornered me, I was like 19 or 20 years old, you know, so it's, you know, it's mandatory. And then a friend of mine's a striking coach in Southern California. I've been bringing him up to work with him. His name's Tyler Wombles. He runs a classic fight team in Southern California. Works with a lot of good guys, Raymond Daniels and a couple other people. So really high-level Muay Thai coach, and he'll be in the corner with me as well.
So you get the call from the UFC, and they say Dennis Bermudez. What's your initial thoughts when they offer him?
Yeah. Yes, 100%. Take it. It's a great fight, great matchup, and he's got a number next to his name. That's all I give a shit about this year is getting a number next to my name, a better and better number next to my name.
Where do you see him being the most dangerous? On the feet, on the ground? I mean, I think he's another person like yourself that's well-rounded, could take it either area.
Man, I think most people in the sport at this point can do pretty much everything pretty well, you know? I think he's going to look to take me down. I don't think it's going to work for him very well, but I think he's going to look to take me down. But I think he's good everywhere, man. He's a good fighter. I think when you get to this point, especially at this weight class, there's not going to be a high-level guy that's like, oh, he just hits hard, or like, oh, he just wrestles, or he, you know what I mean? Like, our weight class is a mix of guys who hit hard, but they're still fast and they have good endurance. You know, like 45, 55s is like that melting pot where we're as fast as the small guys. We hit as hard as the little bit bigger guys, and we can fight for 15 minutes straight. So everyone's good, you know, but I just like this matchup, and I really don't care who it is. I want that number.
Do you expect, he's coming in, he has 2 losses. Do you expect to see a bit more desperation on his side, and is that something maybe that you can use towards your advantage, or you look to use towards your advantage?
He might be desperate, but I think he's been a professional a long time. I think that he will probably fight the way that he usually does. I think he'll definitely he'll be really determined, the way you are with any fight. Obviously, he's coming in to win, but I'm not counting on him to make a mistake because he's lost 2 fights in a row. I'm gonna look to exploit mistakes in the style myself, but I'm not banking on him coming in wild and desperate because he's lost 2. I think he'll probably come in and try to stick to a game plan. I mean, he's I give the guy credit. I mean, he's been around a long time. He's a smart enough fighter to know what his strengths are. I don't think he's gonna come in and just let it all go because he's on a little bit of a slide. I think he'll probably stay pretty composed, but I'm gonna pick at him a little bit, pick at him with the jab, and stay long, see what he does, and whatever he gives me, I'll take.
What would be more gratifying, to get the win via KO or submission?
I'll take either one. I'd like a submission because I haven't had one yet, but I'm not gonna complain about a knockout either. I really think that's the thing about my style. I take risks, and it's paid off before, and so other times it hasn't. But I've never had a boring fight. Even my losses in the UFC have been exciting. I've never been in a boring fight, and I never will be. So I think I could finish him anywhere. My style is exciting. Like I just go out to actually really get in a fight. So I could finish him standing, I could finish him on the ground. We're gonna see.
With a win over him, and especially a decisive one, would it be your biggest win to date on your career?
Yes.
And do you think that, and you kind of mentioned earlier, should that definitely get you break into at least the top 15?
I don't know. I beat the number 11 guy in the world on 3 weeks' notice, and I didn't get put in the top 15 until someone left. So I don't really know how those rankings work. I guess whoever's working those. Maybe they're not an Andre Fili fan. I don't know. Maybe whoever's working those rankings. Maybe I stepped on their shoes in the elevator or something. Maybe I pissed them off. But I don't know how those rankings work. They defy logic. But I think this sport and life in general is pretty much a popularity contest. And I'm co-main event. It's a big stage. And when I knock this motherfucker out, I'm getting my stock raised, and that's all I can focus on. Like that's another thing. I just been focusing on myself. Like. All the other stuff, all the other stuff that goes into it, who's going to get ranked and all this other stuff. Like, man, the older I get, the more I just care about myself, you know what I mean, and performing.
Looking back on the record, we've seen a bunch of win-loss, 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 win-loss. Do you look back at that, and does that bug you? Do you feel that you've done enough this training camp to kind of break that cycle?
Yeah, it drives me crazy to look at that. You know what I mean? Especially because after my first UFC win, I was 13-1. Yeah, it drives me up a wall to see the win-loss, win-loss, win. But I think I've done enough. I think I did enough every fight camp. I never slack in fight camp, but just that fighting is crazy, and sometimes things don't go as planned, or sometimes something is off, or MMA is crazy. So it's not that I didn't do enough in fight camp. I always do enough in fight camp. I just I feel like I'm just in a different place right now. A better place, more focused, and having fun again. And I'm just really excited for Saturday. Yeah, get this win streak going.
Yeah, and I know you're hoping to start 2018 with the bang. So when
100%.
when you play this fight out in your head, how do you get your hands raised?
I think I catch him. I catch him coming in. I catch him coming in and sit him down. I can't tell you exactly how it's going to happen, but I got a couple ideas, and you guys will see Saturday. I think he's going to get frustrated. I think he's going to come barreling in. I think he's going to get clipped.
All right, so there's Andre Fili. I think that's going to be one heck of a fight. And who do you got in that fight?
That's tough for me because in this case, when I see two guys like this that I feel like are very capable fighters, I can't really determine like who's better than the other because I think they're fairly equally matched. I go with which one do I like more, or who I have more of a personal relationship with, and that would side with Dennis. I've spent a lot of time with Dennis in the past. Just gotten to know him really well, and I think he's a really cool guy. So I'm kind of putting my money over there and saying I think he'll win. But I mean, I know both like have a strong chance, and I think Dennis is actually sadly kind of on a bad streak right now.
Right.
So I kind of want him to win. I feel like he needs to get back his legs underneath him and get some wins because he's definitely capable. He has very exciting fights.
Yeah.
And I just think he needs to be a little payoff for giving us good fights. I want him to win.
And I'm kind of in the same boat. he's really a lot of fun to be around during fight week. You know, he is very, very energetic, and he has all these wacky ideas. He was trying to sell the PR team on letting him go and do fighter interviews. He's like, man, they'll tell me things they won't tell anybody else, and I'll do it, and I can get in character, you know. And he's a fun, wacky dude. But you're right. I mean, 2 losses is tough, you know. So I kind of want him to, not that you ever want him to get a win at somebody else's expense, but, you know, unfortunately, somebody's got to lose in this sport. There's a winner and a loser. But yeah, I kind of want to see Dennis get back on the right path, and I think he's a dangerous striker. Andre as well. He just comes out with some outlandish, crazy kicks from nowhere. So I think that could be a lot of fun. In our MMA Junkie staff picks, I did pick Dennis to win this one, but. You know, both great guys. I won't be upset.
Then. I feel like
you might
because you picked Ngannou last time. And
yeah, but I was all good on some of the other ones.
I have to guess. Have you gotten a letter evicting you forever as an Ohioan?
Yeah. No, not yet.
It's coming.
It's still coming. It's still coming.
Assassins.
All right, well, let's jump on. The next piece of audio. I got a chance to sit down with the headliner and have to include it because, you know, a lot of times we don't get access to headliners. So it was nice that the UFC actually let me sit down and knock out an interview with Derek, which makes it a little bit tougher because today we got to interview him again, but it's like, well, nothing's really changed. So, but luckily there was other local media that were there today and actually asked some other questions, and I just kind of jumped in with some weight cutting questions just to check his weight, and he wouldn't say how far off he was, but he did, you know, go on and say like, we're at the right part, you know, we're at the right point of where we need to be. So. He hasn't looked, he hasn't had that sunken eye look, you know, so I think the weight, I don't think he's coming in with much weight to shed. So he looked pretty good today at the open workout. So I think he's feeling pretty good. So I'm sure that's all good. But, here's, some audio that we got of Derek. I thought it was fun, you know, anytime we can get in there and get with a headliner. And, you know, I felt like by the end of the interview, I felt like I was kind of swinging good tempo, good rapport going on. But I don't know. I'll let you guys take a listen to headliner Derek Brunson. I mean, this is a rematch that's going on with Jacare Souza. But one of the things, you know, I was talking with him about is the fact that so much time had passed since that last fight. Is it even really a rematch? Because I think Derek doesn't think he's the same fighter at that point. You know, it's one thing if, you know, Tyron and say, Wonder Boy want to run it right back, you know, or wants to fight somebody and you run it right back. That's a rematch.
Right.
You know, everything's fresh. Nothing's really changed. You might change a couple strategies. You might say, okay, I'm not going to try to jump down for a double leg right from the get-go and catch that knee in the face, you know. But 5 years, you think about how much you've changed in 5 years,
Not
you
much,
know.
actually.
It's,
but, you know, because I'm static. But
you're right. I don't know. When I first met you, you were like quiet guy, and then all of a sudden you became loud guy.
Okay.
That was a 5-year period.
I think I was just keeping that. I just wasn't talking, but I was always loud.
You were always loud.
Yeah.
I heard stories of you being really loud in Australia. The PR staff was saying that you were very loud in Australia.
Yeah, Morgan was there. Yeah, yeah. It was.
They didn't blame Morgan.
He was enabling me.
They didn't say Morgan.
I was going to say, though, before we get into the audio, is that point that you're kind of selling about that evolution. We had it was after, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, I don't know, whatever. We were out and we were talking kind of as producers and how I was trying to get to the same sounds, trying to evoke the same kind of like responses from him.
Oh yeah.
But I had worded it just differently enough.
Yeah.
And that he gave me kind of generic, kind of boilerplate sound. And when you were talking about his response from this interview, I'm like, son of a, you put it like you got that little bit of like you're not the same. You've evolved, but is this even really a rematch? And that's the twist. That's a little subtle twist of the question that evokes the better sound. That's why I kind of wanted to murder you earlier in the week.
But I think that's one of those things, like, you know. And that's one of those things I think, you know, as more we do these interviews, you know, you find a tactic that works. But also I think, you know, and John's quick to point out too, you know, like everybody looks at something just slightly a little bit different. And if you could find that slight little thing and are lucky enough to actually articulate it and remember that you want to talk about it. Because, I mean, I take notes. You should see it. You should have seen my notes that I had in front of me because I didn't want to forget. So I'm like going down the line. You know, so I felt good about that. But, you know, in time, maybe I won't need that as much. But I don't mind going off notes. I'd rather look like the nerd with notes in front and then not remember to ask a question.
Exactly. That's why I actually do mine when I have notes, but then I have my questions, and I try to literally break them down as a conversation. As I say, the conversation would flow like in my own way, like logically, kind of like going through a beginning, middle, and end. It just helps because it
keeps track of the story too, like at least the arc that you're trying to get out as well.
But what I don't write are follow-ups because you don't know what the guy's going to say.
You never know what they're going to say,
and that's where you can get easily off the path and just not know where you're going. So I feel like you have to have a guide so that
to bring you back to point,
and so that you don't miss those because you may want to like there's this other like kind of these small little storylines that I want to get all in,
right? And
if you can easily forget one on a follow-up question and just leads you off into the rabbit trail. And they're like, but let's get back on set. So yeah, I mean, you have to have tons of notes.
I'm so easily distracted that it's like it'd be easy that they'd say something like, "Oh, look at this shiny thing." I'm like, "Oh yeah, wait, were we talking about something?" Like, "Oh no, well let's just move on."
I also think that's also the mark of a good like interview in that it has to be a conversation. If it becomes this robotic like, here's a question, now answer the question. Here's the question, answer the question. Then you're not going to ever get a good sound. The best sound comes from conversations. It comes with a back and forth. And so you have to be listening to what they say, and the next logical question can't just be, well, that was great. Now my next question is, it has to be like, well, tell me, because you just said this, I want to know more about that. And show interest and be interested. If you're not interested at all, then it's gonna show in the interview.
And I think that's probably one of the things I think that, even myself, I constantly try to push it. I know I have a long way to go. But I think a lot of aspiring reporters and people that get it, they sometimes, maybe get a little bit nervous around fighters in that moment. So they're so worried about getting the questions, they're not actually listening as much to what the fighter says. They might miss that wonderful follow-up question, but they're just like, I got to get through my questions. Get through my questions, especially if it's in some of the scrum situations where there's not a lot of time. And they're just like, oh, I just got to get through this, And you think after the fact, you're like, oh, why didn't I ask him when he said that one point?
Right.
Why didn't I follow up on that thing? But yeah, so I don't know. Well, that's a long tangent about, our thought process in interviews. But I did want to say, because it did remind me, having this delicious Ballast Point that you provided yesterday.
That's right.
So it's not a Ballast Point home game in the sense that we're home, but we'll call it a Ballast Point away game.
There we go.
But it did remind me that you busted my balls.
Oh, that's right.
At that last episode, a couple episodes back, when you had the Christmas party, and you had some delicious Ballast Point at your place, and then I didn't realize that I was supposed to mention that in the podcast.
You should have, because I provided.
Yes, you did.
I provided for you.
So
because you talked about how you couldn't get any.
Yeah.
And then you said you went to the party.
I said I couldn't afford any. This shit ain't cheap.
And then you went to my party, and then I had them there for you.
Yes.
So you just left off with I was going to buy them for the party, and then you didn't. But you didn't talk about the happy ending, which was, here it is, here they are, here for imbibing pleasure.
And I did imbibe. It was
did.
good. So thank you very much. That was delicious.
Now I want to get sponsored.
I'm glad you're towing the company line.
That's right.
Wonderful. And
I think
John was out there with Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony Beach was
I was jealous.
That's a real home game.
That is. So I was jealous. So we'll have to set something up where we can get to hang out with Anthony and the Ballast Point, the boys again. But all right, back on top. We gotta stay on point because
rabbit trails.
I know. See, I need a note that says "Come back to reality, Kenny." Okay. So Derek Brunson. Listen to this audio from Derek. I thought Derek was, very open, and he's one of those guys that sometimes, like you said, you catch him at the wrong point, you get these really quick answers, and you always kind of question, you're like, does he like me? Does he just think I'm a piece of shit and he doesn't want to answer my questions? But he's a good dude, and he's certainly, I think, plus anytime these fighters are on the winning side of things, they're always a little bit more open, so we're catching him at a good point, but he's excited for this fight. So enough of us talking about Derek. We'll let you listen to me rambling back and forth with Derek, and we'll see what you guys all think.
Well, it's funny. You're usually fighting abroad. I think 3 out of your last 4 was all over the world, but now you're, I think about 3 hours away from home, 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
How's that process?
Feels good. I don't have the long journey. Being able to fight stateside, I feel elated, you know, being that 3 of my last 4 have been outside the U.S.
Well, and I know some fighters say at times could be a bad thing because they're getting hit up from all their friends, their family. Have you been getting a lot of calls and requests from people you haven't heard from in a while?
I do. And it's funny because I heard from people early on, and I kind of told people, hey, this is how it's going to be. If you need tickets, if I said I'll get you a ticket, then you have to contact this person. So I kind of take it out of my hand. My friends take on the task of, you know, being the guy that gets called. I give them a list of the people who get tickets, and they call them. Everybody else, you contact me via text, you contact me via Facebook. Instagram, I'm not going to answer, you know. I'm focused on the fight, and then after it's, you know, I'll be like, hey, I didn't check my messages, so now I can reply.
That's smart. When did you set up that little process? It sounds like you.
Yeah. Probably the last year, you know.
Yeah.
Especially when the fights become bigger, everybody needs tickets. But you know, most people don't need tickets when it's Australia or you know Brazil or New Zealand. But yeah, definitely when it's in the U.S., everybody hit me up for tickets. So I have to kind of draw that line somewhere.
Well, speaking of big events, it's your third headline event, I believe, overall, and your second headline event in a row. What does that say about the UFC's belief in you, and I guess maybe your star power now?
Hey, we need a good fight. You go find Mr. Brunson, you know. So I'm a guy that go out here and put on a show, finish fights, and fan friendly. You know, different from when I first came in the UFC. I came in as a pure grappler. You know, still working on my skills, but now I'm pretty comfortable with my stand up.
What do you think finally, do you feel like when at the start of your career to now that you maybe got as much support behind you from the promotion and from maybe the media, or what was it that finally you think maybe put that switch?
I made them, you know. I went out here and put my knuckles on people, so they had no choice. So I like to think I did it the hard way, you know. It wasn't from the beginning. I mean, I was producing all throughout, man. I had a great record, I believe 9-3 in the UFC. So, you know, I'm consistent. I'm winning fights, you know, always winning. And I've seen some guys that, you know, might be 6-5 in the UFC, and they've been in a lot of big fights, getting a big push. But I came out here and did it the hard way. You know, I made guys pay attention. You know, when you go out here and finish fights, you have to pay attention. You just can't ignore a guy for so long.
Do you respect it more, that you feel that you've earned it maybe more so than some of these cats that maybe get given it a little bit easier?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely respect it. Even, you know, the money, I make decent money, but it wasn't given to me. You know, I didn't come into UFC on a great pay scale opposed to some of the other guys that other guys complain about. I came in here and I fought, you know, I won fights, been consistent, and, you know, let that speak for itself.
Yeah. Well, you've been on a heck of a run lately, culminating in that impressive performance of the night finish of Lyoto Machida. What did you take away from that fight that maybe helped push you into this camp and going forward? Was it just your overall performance? Was it overall just how you dealt with the fight week? I mean, what did you take away from that fight that you've been using to propel you forward?
Just patience. Just going out here understanding that, hey, even if someone catches you with a jab or, you know, a clean cross, that you don't have to go in there and engage in a full-blown battle. You know, you can kind of step back and set up your punches and then still get the finish.
Do you think that's often, you know, a tough thing to do? Because I think a lot of these guys want to go out there and they want that impressive finish and they push too hard for it. Was it a matter of maybe a little trial and error that you found the sweet spot for you to figure out when you needed to explode and when to possibly just hold back and let the fight come to you?
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, I was having a great run. I think I was doing it for the history books. You know, I think what was it, 5 first round finishes or 4 in a row? I believe 5 would have been the record in the UFC, like of all time. So I went out there in a fight and really tried to force it, you know, so that was kind of learning the hard way. Then I kind of like, okay, I know I can knock guys out, but let's do it in a more, you know, constructive way where we're not putting ourselves at a lot of danger and we're still able to get the finish.
And once I guess that sounds like one of those moments where it kind of just changes the whole way you approach the fight, because you found yourself catching yourself putting undue pressure on yourself because you were going for a record or you were going for a thing. Was that a big learning experience and maybe a little weight off your shoulder going forward to realize that, hey, I don't need to chase these records, I don't need to chase these things, I just need to go out there, put on good performances and get that win?
Oh yeah, for sure. With that being said, whenever I was chasing, you know, trying to get the most finishes in the first round for, you know, the history books, I also knew that I still didn't I wanted it and I was gunning for it, but it was, I felt I can get the job done. But then it let me know that, hey, you got to be more a part of the process and kind of take your time, pick your shots, and really don't go out there. It's funny because I have a gym now, and I tell the younger guys, they'll come in and try to spar, and then they'll be like, all right, I'm done. I'm like, no, you're not. I'm like, don't try to spend your energy all in one spot. And then, so it's like a note to myself, like, hey, don't try to spend your energy all in one spot, just kind of, set it up, and, the finish will come.
I was going to say, being a gym owner and maybe taking more of a mentorship role, how has that improved your game? I mean, is it really kind of helped to be able to analyze better and step back and look and see what you've been doing this whole time?
Yeah, for sure. When you're actually teaching someone something, you definitely have to analyze it and make it play over and over in your head. And sometimes you're like, hold on, did I forget a step? Did I, explain it quite correct? So when you're doing that, when you're processing, it's making it better for you so you can understand it also. So it definitely made me more of a thinker and picking up on things.
Now, I know you weren't initially asking for Jacare, but I know you were asking for tough guys. So you get the call from the UFC offering Jacare. What were your initial thoughts?
I was like, cool. It's an opportunity to fight a top level guy, to get some revenge, even though I don't really look at this fight as revenge. I mean, it happened, but, I was very green when I fought Jacare. I think he knows that also. So I'm a whole different fighter. But initially I wanted a guy who really was going to be like, okay, Derek beat him. He deserves a title shot. That'll be 3 in a row. The finishes are great. All these first round finishes. The Anderson, let's just say we don't count the Anderson Silva fight, or let's say we kind of that potentially 4 in a row, 8 out of 9. That's a huge streak. So that's the type that I was looking for.
Well, and you kind of touched upon it there, and that was going to be one of my next questions, but you sort of already answered it. Everybody's selling it as this is the rematch, but that was August 18, 2012. And you guys, how are you now compared to what you were then, and how is he different? I mean, because like you said, I think with that much time, you're a totally different fighter. It doesn't seem like a rematch to you, does it?
Nah, not at all. Jacare's the same fighter since I've known him, or since I watched him fight, and it's been about 6 years, which is not a bad thing. But I know what he's going to do. He's very, he comes forward with the punches, and he's going to look for the takedown. Sometimes he'll throw 3, 4, 5 punches, but he's ultimately going to look for the takedown. So I know what he's bringing to the table, and I know how he's going to approach the fight. But he has no idea how I'm going to approach the fight. Like, I got knees, elbows, kicks now. Keep him guessing. I can take him down too. I'm not afraid to take him down and get in his guard and punch on him. So just confident wherever the fight goes.
So you kind of answered my question, because I was going to ask where you thought he was the most dangerous. So in your eyes, he hasn't evolved as much as you have. So you're expecting the same thing. He's going to either try to use some punches to set up to get to the ground game. I think most people expect that he's going for some sort of jiu-jitsu submission of some sort. So do you feel that he really just hasn't evolved since then? It ultimately is the same person? I mean, I know he's getting older as well. So is he maybe less dangerous than what you think that he used to be?
Not so much that he hasn't evolved, because I'm sure he picked up on, a little key points here and there, or fine-tune some things, but I think he's the exact same fighter. Like, he's peaked out. He was already, he's been what he's been for the past couple years, probably getting a little wiser and, understanding the game more. But yeah, definitely showcasing the same skill sets that he had for years.
So your win over a legend like Machida, who was, I believe at the time, the UFC ranked him at 13th. And if you win Saturday against Jacare, which I believe the UFC has him as number 3, which would be a bigger win for you? And is it maybe a bigger win this one because it more than likely sets up a title contention or gets you closer? Where do you see which fight as being a bigger win for your career?
That's a valid question. I guess you'll have to go with the higher ranked guy that's going to do more for me at this current time. Lyoto was out for a while, but funny enough, everybody forget the fact that skills don't really diminish. He was out for a while. He had a close fight with Romero up until Romero was able to get the finish. Right before that, he beat Gegard Mousasi, who beat Chris Weidman, who was 4th in the rankings right before he left. So, I mean, this guy missed some time due to whatever the supplement thing, but his resume is stout. He's beat a lot of top guys, but I guess you have to go with the one that's going to propel me to lower in the rankings to where I want to be. So yeah, this will be the best win for sure.
Now, I know there's some questions with the whole division because we're not quite sure how long Whitaker is going to be out. We got this interim belt that's going to happen. But do you feel with a good win here that should get you, if there isn't a unification bout that happening, that this should get you the next shot at possibly the interim belt?
I think so. I hope Whitaker's healthy and he comes back and he's able to kick whatever injury or whatever, and he's able to fight soon. But with that being said, he might not be able to. Like I heard he has something with his staph infection that traveled to his lungs. It's pretty serious. So that might sideline him for a while. So with that being said, they have guys fighting for the interim. So yeah, a win over number 3. I think I'll jump a lot of guys and be in that 3 spot with an impressive finish. I should be up next for the interim title for sure.
And if they didn't, say that possibly Robert's coming back and they're trying to hold the interim, would the a bout with the loser be something possibly? I know that could be a possible rematch with Romero, but would that be something that you would be interested, or would you rather hold out and say I'm holding out for that next title shot?
I think so. I think that'll be more on my edge, because you don't really, with this game is crazy. You never know when you're going to get a title shot or what. So, I think a win over number 3 guy, I think I can wait, I'm not hurting financially, so smart my money. So I can wait for that next title shot. Being that the fights that I've had, the streaks that I compel, the finishes that I've getting, I don't think it's very hard to market a guy that's getting first round knockouts, So I think it's a fight that everybody want to see regardless of who it's against. So I think, I'll be waiting for something big after this for sure.
Okay, so I know you've thought about the fight. Saturday comes. When you see it play out in your head, how do you get the fight done on Saturday?
I think I go out there, take my time, see how Jacare comes out. He can come out super aggressive, and I'll be right there to meet him with some punches, or, he can come out super, patient, and then I'll still be there to meet him with punches, but ultimately just put my hands on him and taking him out.
Well, if you like that audio, you can thank me for it, because I immediately had Derek before Kenny, or Cold Coffee here, and really just got him in the mood, because I got through all the tough questions, and screwed up several of my questions.
Oh yes, the UFC interviews are the tough, hard hitting questions.
Yeah, they are. I was just really getting into it about how's it to fight in your hometown? Is that tough? Is it fun? Is anyone gonna make you brownies?
I hope you didn't. I was like, I hope you didn't ask him about brownies.
That's a tough question. It could have been cookies.
That is a tough question.
Yeah.
That is a tough question. But what else? When you were talking about that, it brought up the interview I had with, and I don't have any audio for this, but with Jacare. Jacare is really embracing the whole fact of speaking more English, and he threw me off because I've never really heard him speak English. So when he was in the back, he said a few things. I was just like, wait a second. I was like, is he good? I was like, you still need a translator, right? And he's like, oh, yeah. And I forgot the translator's name, and he said his name, and I was like, okay. I was like, man, what is going on? I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. But that was another interview that I thought really, really went well. And what was fun, the best part after it, this most serious, dangerous dude, but at the end, whenever it gets done, he's like, that was good conversation. That was good. I was like, thank you, Jacare. Thank you.
And
it felt good.
Your life was complete then.
My life was complete.
I see what you said. That it was a conversation. Yeah.
Yes.
You had a conversation.
And that's what it was.
It wasn't an interview.
Yeah.
It was a conversation.
But also, I think it's the fact that I let him talk a little bit about because I opened up with how the kid came up there and he was actually interacting with the crowd, and that was awesome. I thought he did a great job of sort of playing with the crowd. It was a very, very small crowd for the open workout. But he brought this kid up there and he rolled jiu-jitsu with him, and it was a lot of fun. This little kid's a badass. So you'll see a story on him eventually that I'm going to put together. But, we talked a little bit about that, and I enabled him, allowed him, he kind of went on about how he hopes and dreams to someday set up a gym where he can train kids and, kind of bring kids, train the next generation of guys. And
right.
So it wasn't just all fight stuff. And I think that's what happens so much is that we just hit these guys with so much fight shit that when you throw anything else, they're just like, thank you very much.
Well, yeah, I imagine
thank you for
it's
something.
their passion, but also it's their job.
It's their job,
and sometimes you're just like, I don't want to talk about work.
So, yeah, somebody come at me. So tell me about, you're using Final Cut, huh? I know you probably like Premiere too, but what do you think about Avid? You know, and then frame rates, brother, frame rates. I'm like, oh, jeez.
Right.
Oh, geez.
There's a part of me that is interested in, like, here's my opinion, but then it's like, nah, I'd rather talk about other stuff.
Yeah, other stuff. Well, speaking of other stuff, this next interview was from Bobby Green. And when the first time I interacted with Bobby Green, I was still with the UFC, and I was covering him for a Strikeforce fight. So where did Strikeforce always go? Was it like San Jose or?
I think so. Yeah, I think it was San Jose.
One of those ones, San something over there in Cali. I don't know if it was San Jose. I think it was San Jose.
Yeah, definitely.
But it was great, and it's funny, and it brought up thoughts when we were in there, and I was talking with the PR office. I always wanted, like, your guys' group to kind of do the NFL films thing, document stuff, history. And we talked about Strikeforce and some of the fights, when it wasn't the ones that were broadcast, the camera guys would just set their cameras on the ground and walk away.
The cameras in-house. That would be their lunch break.
Yeah, so they wouldn't film. So there's fights from, like, Daniel Cormier and all these cats that nobody filmed it. And it's like, look at him now. He's a UFC champion. And you can honestly you should have been able to say, oh, yeah, remember that one Strikeforce fight? Here's the footage. And now they can't do it, So I was glad to see Bobby, because I feel like this is one fighter I feel like I've watched him kind of come up. I know you had a lot of days where, you had your WEC days, and then you get to see the guys come over. So for me, this is one of those cats that, I got to see somebody come from like something smaller and then come up to the UFC. I mean, there were other guys in the Strikeforce, but this is one of the ones I just remember, because when we did an interview with him, I think it was like there was no other media covering the Strikeforce stuff, so it was just us in-house, and he was one of the only fighters. I remember just sitting on this bus, just me and him on a bus, and I was like, wow, this is a small little like promotion. I was like, there's just like one fighter on the bus with me. I was like, this is so weird. So it's interesting to see his growth and where he's at now. He's on a bad little skid right now. His last fight that it was a really, really good fight. It ended up being like a fight of the night, but he needs to get a win. But we talked a little bit about everything from baby mamas and the injuries and things that have forced him out to kind of what's going on right now. But did you guys interview Bobby Green?
For I think it was top 10. We didn't do fights, any fight questions with him. We just did for the top 10 show.
Okay, well,
but good personality. Just really, I mean, he's good TV.
And this is one of those fights. I mean, Eric Koch. I mean, he's been out for. He fights like once a year, and I don't know if I can't remember if he was the one that was doing like woodworking or something, and he just kind of was doing all this stuff off to the side, and he's completely happy with it. And I think he's paying his bills with that. So like the fighting's almost like his moonlighting thing or whatever. So, but that should be a really, really good fight. I'm really, really looking forward to it. But this another interview that I felt really good about. I might not have been the best, but I felt good at the end. Like I felt like me and the fighter kind of connected, got some good stuff out. So the funniest part about this is at the very end of the interview. So if you can make it all the way through the end, we usually toss it up to the fighters, at the end, like toss them that softball, like how you gonna win that fight at the end of the night? What do you see happening? And Bobby throws out some classic lines at the very end, and you just kind of gotta stick it through the rest of the full interview,
or fast forward to that point,
or fast forward to the end. And I think you'll enjoy, because it was a wonderful moment, and a very candid moment. And I think anytime you get to see a fighter just have a full-on belly laugh,
right? Kind of break character, really.
Break character, and just like,
oh, I'm not a fighter, but I'm also this is fun.
It was a good moment. So here, you guys, this is the interview with Bobby Green, and stick around for the end part, because I think you'll really enjoy it.
You've dealt with injuries in the past, and you've had some layoffs in between, but how are you feeling health-wise now?
I feel great. I think that it's finally everything's coming together. I'm learning more about my body and learning how to train. Sometimes I push myself too hard and in situations and just in training situations, and sometimes you overexert your body, you know. So I've had a lot of injuries due to stuff like that.
That's got to be tough too, because I mean, this is a sport where I think it's the guys that push themselves to the limits that always rise the ranks. But then at some point, it's got to be a tough balance, because at some point your body fights back on it, huh?
Yeah, you got to understand how to listen to your body and hear these different things, you know. Just over time, after doing this so long, I've learned, like, hey, today we need to take practice down a little bit, you know. We had a hard sparring session, we had a hard wrestling session. I need to slow it down some, and that should not go to the next practice, and you could have an injury.
Does part of that learning process, that come from, is that just all yourself? Do you have some teammates around you, or like people that you're working with that kind of help, like, inform you of that, or kind of?
Yes. I'm working with Sam Mason, and he's my head coach, and he's the really guy that can see. He'll look and go, we need to tone it down some. You look like you're slowing down. You're doing this and that. We don't want to cause any injuries. Let's do this and do this. Let's focus on this. Let's work on our timing. Let's do some other things.
And I'm sure that, and probably I think too, isn't there a lot of, when you go to practices, varying the workouts so that you can give you certain body parts time to heal. So if your
sort
upper
of,
body's,
but we're in the sport of MMA, like, so if say you were trying to let your upper body heal,
right?
But does that mean that you're not grabbing anything? What are you doing? Like just like sweeps or something? What are you doing? It requires your whole body, so you need to know how to like take the speed and the aggression down some, you know, different things like that.
Okay. Looking back on the last fight, I know coming into that last one, we had a few losses that we were trying to get over, and then the last we ended up getting a draw. Mm-hmm. You know, I know you were trying to break it, you know, but it did turn out to be a fight of the night. Mm-hmm. It probably wasn't the outcome that you were hoping to get, but with that bonus, did it signify that you were back on the right track?
I agree. I think so. I think that it definitely get me back. I was talking to Daniel Cormier. He's just like, what happened? You know, I was just like, it's like, it seemed like you lost your energy. You don't got that same to win, to do it. And I was like, yeah, interesting. And one thing I learned was that I started listening to the comments. I started paying attention to the comments and hearing everybody and hearing what the world thinks. And I learned that from someone else, that you shouldn't read the comments and you shouldn't care too much about what the world thinks about what you're doing. So I got really down on myself. I was having life troubles, and things just kind of started to spiral for me, you know. I was like, told Daniel, I'm going to do this just for you telling me that. I'm going to just kick it back into another gear. And so I brought a new show. We came out there with good energy, and things went well. Fight of Night just shows me that I'm doing something right.
That was going to kind of follow in my next question, because I think you kind of touched on it, because I remember when we last spoke with you, I was going to ask what sort of caused the skid, that little slight drop. And I remember you said there were injuries, there were baby mama problems, there were all this other
life issues. Dramas. I had all these different things. It's just, my life is chaotic, bro. I guess they're just more so like all these different things that are just impacting me all at once, you know. My life isn't like anyone else's. I don't know about other people, but my life isn't like anyone else's. So it's just so chaotic, and finally just getting used to that, getting some type of control over things and understanding, just do the best you can, and from there let the chips fall where they can.
I love it. Well, let's look at the fight camp. The first, for this particular fight camp, this is probably the first time we can really start taking what happened in the past to move forward. So what was the biggest difference in this fight camp to maybe some of the recent ones?
Change of coaches, change of attitude, change of energy. You know, those are all different things that I needed. You know, before I would have some issues where every week my manager said, the first week of the fight, me and my coach are fucking fighting. We're getting into it, you know? And it's like, I won't speak to him, he won't speak to me, or it's just tension and all those different things like that, you know? So this fight was the best, and this coach I'm dealing with now is just a different energy, different environment, getting better results. Everything's working.
When you say energy, you're mainly talking like the mental aspect that you're dealing with, and maybe how they're approaching the game with you?
Yes. I would like to say my old coach, like, I think he wanted to motivate me with fear and say, oh, this is going to be your most, you know, biggest fight. It's going to be the hardest fight you ever had. Instead of, like, my now coach is like, hey, this is just a glorified striking match. It's just another walk in the park that you do all the time. This guy, you're supposed to walk through him. And now that I have that mindset, I'm going to walk through him. That's what's gonna happen. I'm just gonna walk through you. That's what I do now. I just walk through guys and I shut them down.
So it sounds like you're employing a little more visualization, but also sounds like you're maybe just having a little more fun with it. You're putting less pressure on it.
Yeah, no, forget all the pressure. Before I used to care about the W and all these things. Those things aren't interesting to me anymore. You know, W sounds cool, so to be a winner. But to me, it's the product you're selling. I don't look at it like, you know, it's more of a fight. I'm looking at it, I'm selling a show. My fights are different from most people's, and that's what the fans have told me, is that they're like, hey, it was kind of getting lackluster, and then you came out with this energy, with this show. My show, it's like a concert. It's like a comedy show. It's like a rap show and a fight all rolled into one.
So that kind of, one of the things I remember reading that you said is that you always wanted to make art. Is that still, so that sounds like that's still
that was my big thing at the beginning. I used to call my style poetry in motion. And it's just poetry that you're seeing, you know, giving you something deep that's like impactful, you know. I like to try to leave the audience with my heart, you know. Like when I got dropped in the last fight, I could have easily quit and been done and try to walk away with the W and just, I got the W. That's okay. I'm not okay with that. I'm trying to give somebody something to go, ugh, that was nice. I like that, you know. I'm just trying to give somebody something different.
Now, is that a tough balance to try to give them something flashy and still maintain in your head, okay, don't go too far out. Don't get too flashy, because I think you've even said in the past that you've gotten yourself in trouble by trying to be too flashy in the past.
Yeah. With Dustin Poitier, trying to get out there and give exactly what I said I would do. Go out there and I'm gonna come right in your face. I'm gonna fight him, do it like this, and do exactly what I said, and not be a liar, you know. And to prove to these fans or different people, it's a very small line that you can't, you know, that you play with. So entertainment and just fighting, it's both. You gotta know how to play with it, and it's only special individuals that can do that. Make the fight exciting yet entertaining, you know, because you can go out there and take a guy down and hold him down for 3 5s. And that could not be exciting, but you did what you're supposed to do. You dominated, but no, that doesn't mean it's exciting. So maybe I get him and I try to do some big shots and he gets away. I was trying to be exciting, and now I let him get away. So it's a fine tune. You got to be able to, like, okay, well, he gets away. I'm still going to be exciting here or wherever the fight takes.
So the UFC calls you and they offer Air Coke. What are your initial thoughts after they make that call?
He's just another guy. He's just another guy. I hope he can be a good dance partner, you know. After fighting Lando, I realized certain guys, what do they say, styles make fights. So certain guys make good fights, certain guys don't. I hope it's gonna be a good fight. I aim to please. I aim to get a performance, fight at night or something like that lets me know exactly that I'm doing my job. You know, my job is here to come please these fans.
And he seems to fight, if I can remember right, he seems to fight maybe once a year. Is it tough to maybe see a lot of past fights of this guy and maybe wonder where he's at, you know, because he's not that active?
I don't care. I'm going to smash him. I don't care. It doesn't matter what he's doing or what he does. It doesn't matter. I've studied enough from what I know, but to be honest, when you get there and you fight a guy, I'll always go off of that day. You got to go off of what he's given you. You can't game plan for months ago and think this guy's going to be the same guy. I never try to do that. I'm going off of what I'm reading. I'm reading you in the fight. Oh, okay, you're doing that, you're setting that up, this leads to that.
In the past, you mentioned you started fighting because you became a father. How has fatherhood changed your motivation as a fighter, and what do your kids think about what you do?
That's an interesting question, and I try not to be too honest. That's the problem with me, I'm too honest. I tell everybody just like it is, and sometimes people can take it, some people can't, you know? Don't answer it the wrong way. I'm trying not to tell you the truth, you know, because like I learned it from Joe Stevenson. I stay away from my kids for the fight camp. I have my daughter with me who lives with me, but my other two I don't get to see until after the fight camp. So I miss my kids like no other, you know. They don't know too much. They know daddy's a fighter. They know I have a show every once in a while, but they don't exactly understand what goes into everything, you know, or what I'm doing exactly. I don't let my kids know I don't want them to fight. If he wants to follow my dream, cool. I'll support him, but I like him to use his brain.
But that, well, I guess if that's what kind of got you into it, but has your motivation as a fighter changed I mean, did it push you more than what you maybe thought before you became a father?
Does it change? Yes, I would say so. I'd say that my kids motivate me way more than I would be if I didn't have kids. Is that the question that we're asking?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I would say kids wouldn't have a need to do it, I guess. You know, I think at the end of the day, yeah, you're right, because I would be like, I don't have to fight, but then who's going to feed these mouths? And some 9-to-5s don't do it, especially when you have 3 kids, you know, so.
You're right.
You're right.
That's kind of a silly question, but you're right.
I need to prepare their futures. I need to make sure I have enough. I'm trying to pay off my house. I'm trying to make sure I got enough for when they have emergency stuff and they start asking, Daddy, I want this and need this. I've got like 3 cars right now, and I'm saving this one for my son, this one for my daughter, and this is going to be her graduation, you know, like different stuff like that.
Well, speaking of all that, with the responsibilities, I guess to go back to the other thing, does that make it tough? Because I know ultimately you want to leave a lasting impression on the viewers. So is there some point where you're like, I want to leave this impression, I want to go out on my shield, or does that still ring in the back of your head? I got mouths to feed. Maybe pull back a little bit.
That's a great question. Yes and no. But I think there's more of go out on your shield, because people are going to remember those things, and I hope that my company would understand that and be more implied to keep me employed. You see what I'm saying? Because we have those fighters that go out there and they give the show. Because sometimes you come into certain cards, and I've been in a lot of them, and it's like my buddies go to sleep on them. And then you get those certain guys that just pull you into the show, and you go, this is why I'm a fan.
So I know you've been thinking about this fight. So when it comes Saturday, how do you go out there and how do you see this fight playing out?
I'm going to smash him. I'm going to come in his face, and I'm going to be all in his face until he wants me to stop, and I still won't stop. That sounded really weird. I'm going to come in his face. Oh, shit. You can edit that out, hopefully.
We'll leave that one. We'll leave that one.
Great.
All right, and that was one Bobby Green. Do not let that man come at you, because you know what he'll do, son. He'll come in your face. And he ain't going to stop. You're going to want him to stop, but he ain't going to stop.
He ain't going to stop.
Dude, that was a wonderful, wonderful moment at the end. It's just funny because, I know he wanted to be like, please don't use that. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna use it. Like, that was good, bro. That was good. But and there's no like bad intention, like, oh, he's gonna look bad, because the best part about it is just he just generally enjoyed himself at that moment. It was just so natural, because we all say stupid shit like that.
Well, I feel like UFC is like one of the hotbeds for these really bad double entendres. It always happens if you just
right.
And guys take themselves almost too sincerely or too earnestly when they're like, I'm gonna come in his face and do this. It's like they're not even listening to themselves, and they're like, oh, okay. And the fact that Bobby actually caught himself doing a classic, like little double entendre.
Because I didn't really even think about it. It might have eventually got there, but I was like, oh, okay, no, I'm with you. You're getting in his face. You're gonna come up on his face. And
well, it's funny too, because so you played me the audio the other day, and we were all kind of like laughing. I was like, that's great audio. Well, then I started editing my Derek Brunson video. And at the end, I pretty much had the same thing of like, now spike this answer for him, just easy, declarative, like, why are you giving me the victor? And he said, I'm just going there, I'm gonna stick it in. And then he stopped too. He's like, God, he's like, nah. He's like, I'm stick to it or whatever. So yeah,
get it in. There's a whole bunch of Me Too moments happening right now. Just quickly, because I know we want to get to what Albert has been promised forever and ever and ever, and that is a Far Off Topics with Fiasco Jones.
That's right.
I don't know if you're going to try to throw an audio there when I wasn't looking forward to it.
Oh, really?
Far Off Topic with Fiasco Jones.
That's it. You'll get to hear that again once we do the segment start actually, but it has been promised, so we're going to give him a moment to do his thing, because we've been stiffing him recently.
Yeah,
But-
you've been putting me on for my just great MMA.
Yeah, we're just hoping you say something that finally gets you fired from that Pepsi company. You know,
Pepsi will never fire me.
Pepsi will never fire you.
I'm
They
the man
need
that
you
pours
too
the
much.
syrup. Yeah, I pour the syrup.
But I did want to bring you a newsy update. I had the pleasure of getting to go hang out with some of the Fox guys tonight, and over there at the hotel where they were at was Tyron Woodley. I was supposed to talk to Tyron and Michael Bisping, who had spent some time out at the Charlotte Raceway, so they actually got to hop in the NASCAR cars and drive around.
Wow.
So I guess the cars had the chips in there that were controlling the speed, so they couldn't go any faster than like 150 miles an hour. But if you take the chip out, shit's like 200 and something miles an hour. I guess for one lap, and I believe it's in here as well, they let them drive. And they said, how did they he phrased it? It's like, did you see in that Ricky Bobby movie, there was a point where they thought they were driving super fast, but they were going like super, super slow? He said when they drove around, they were probably going like 45 miles an hour. So yeah, they didn't do the best job, but they did actually drive. But so I did get a chance to talk to Tyron, and when this whole thing was sort of set up by the Fox guys, they were like, "Hey, Tyron and Michael here, let them preview the fights." So, you know, rather than us kind of ramble more about the fights, I got to sit and talk with Tyron, and
A real analysis
to a degree, you know, because you could tell he had just went the interview through that before with another Fox guy that was there, a local Fox channel was interviewing him, but he also didn't want to give away all of his tidbits, because when I tried to press him for a prediction, he wouldn't give me a prediction. He was saving it for the chair. And I almost partially thinking that he wasn't quite sure where he was going to go, but also I think he was kind of trying to save it for the show. But he did break down the differences, and I asked him a little bit about the whole rematch thing, what he thought about rematches, in the sense of, is this really the rematch like people are saying, or is this a whole different fight because it had been so long? So I had him talk a little bit about that, and then asked him on an update just on his health. You know, he recently had the shoulder surgery, and he'd been out. He's been out for a little bit, but he's hoping to fight early on in 2018. So everything's been going really, really well. So, but enough of me telling you what he says. Let's let you listen to Tyron Woodley, and then we will come back and we will have a little bit of Fiasco's
Far Off Topic.
All right. So here's a welterweight champ, Tyron Woodley.
Champ, so you're here in town in Charlotte. You know, you're going to be working the show, but you also got to do some fun things today. Tell us a little bit about what you got to do today.
Got to torture Michael Bisping most of today because I'm better at him in everything, and that included NASCAR racing. So we did that today. Went to the NASCAR Hall of Fame. My man Dylan got to take us around. Austin Dillon, for you NASCAR fans, I know he's a big deal. Him along with Bubba Wallace and my man Stenhouse. Don't beat me up, man, because you did speed me around at 200 miles an hour and made my head, the back of my head was peeled off from speed. So I did that. It was a phenomenal time. We had a blast. It's nothing like that. I didn't expect it to feel like that going around that track that fast. But, yeah, we did that today, and we're going to grab some food and chill out.
Was it just a ride-along? Did you get to touch the wheel? Did they let you drive a little, or just ride along with these guys?
We did this. We did one lap around. Okay, and we got out the car and they said, "How fast do you think you was going?" And I said, "Yeah, I was probably going like 85 or something like that." And he said, "Yeah, you remember that part of Talladega Nights when Will Ferrell kind of like had that accident? He came back driving really slow." He said, "That's how you were driving." He said, "You were going 45 miles an hour." I was like, "Well, it felt different on the track." So we did one lap. Then they put us in the car, and then they went from 0 to 150, and they stayed there the entire time. They were going back to back, touching each other's bumpers. We was like 3 millimeters away from the damn wall a few times. They were swerving, cutting in and out. And yeah, I was trying to scream, but it was going so fast, the wind was like taken from me. So I was just like, But it was crazy. It was nuts. So.
Have you always been a fan of NASCAR, or is this one of your first interactions actually seeing the race cars and seeing the track?
This is my first time being at a track. This is my first time obviously being in a race car. Definitely my first time almost crapping on myself in the car. But it was a great experience. You know, when next time I watch NASCAR, I will watch it with a different appreciation. We have to stay focused for 25 minutes in a fight. They're out there for 4.5 hours. So to not make one mistake and stay to the course and to do that for 600 miles, you know, I got to take my hats off to them.
Did you ask them how they use the restroom in the cars?
You know what? Someone told me they went ahead and just handled their biz right then and there. So I know how that will work for number one. But when it comes to number two, hopefully they just take the L that day. They pull over a pit stop and they just, you know, wave the flag. They lost today.
I dig it. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about what you're here for. We got a rematch of Jacare and we got Derek Brunson. Now, I want to ask you, everybody's billing it as a rematch. It's been 5 years since the last time that fight has happened. Both of these fighters, I think, have grown and have changed. You probably have been in rematches yourself. When you come back in that time and so much time has changed, does it feel like a rematch or is it actually like a new fight because both fighters have changed so much?
You know, my situation was quite a bit different than theirs. You know, I fought Stephen Thompson, and I fought him the very next fight. So I tweaked a few things, but pretty much the roadmap to victory was kind of laid out the first time I fought him. In this case, these guys have 5 years. Not only have these guys evolved as fighters, learned new skills, but one fighter's, you know, didn't have the strike and didn't have the experience, and the other fighter did have the strike and the experience. Now the age gap is blended. I think, you know, Jacare's getting a bit older, and then maybe Derek Brunson's just coming into a stride. So they're probably at an even point. I think it was a little bit too much at the time when Brunson fought him. You know, the grappling was too overwhelming, and he was focusing so much on the grappling, it allowed Jacare to set up some pretty significant strikes and knock him out. So this fight's probably more even this time, but, you know, it's still a striker's fight.
And when you say striker's fights, and I think when you were alluding to who's striking got better, I think we've seen that Derek Brunson's hands have gotten so much better over the years. And in fact, he said earlier today that he feels that he's evolved, he's moved forward, but that Jacare is pretty much still the same fighter, still dangerous in the same areas. I think most people expect that he's dangerous. He wants to get the fight to the ground, but he does have strikes as well. That's how he ended the first fight. So do you agree that maybe Derek had bigger gap or more chance to evolve because he had more to kind of overcome since that first fight?
You know, when he fought Jacare, there's no question he was mainly a wrestler. And now, you know, once you knock somebody out and you get the taste of that and you keep hunting for the KO and you've had several KOs really quickly, you start getting experience, you start getting that confidence. Not only confidence in your striking, but confidence to engage, confidence to go forward and look for the knockout. And when you're doing that, when you're being more offensive, that almost sets up your defense. I think that if he had had the same experience he has now in striking, maybe that first KO wouldn't have happened. He was kind of being tentative and got clipped with a shot, got put down, and he just had not had the experience in recovering, getting his bearings, you know, fighting through that situation, you know, stalemating it out potentially, then getting back to his feet and trying to find a way to win. Jacare, I think he's a good fighter. I think his best years of fighting potentially are behind him. I think that, you know, he's getting up there in age, but he still has power in his hands. He still has jiu-jitsu. You don't forget that. It's like riding a bike. But when you put the variables together, I would be silly to say that Brunson has, you know, exponentially grown as a fighter since then.
So I don't know if you're allowed to make predictions or if you normally make predictions, but if you had to make a prediction for this fight, seeing how you've seen both these guys, and I think you're very well versed in their past fights, how do you see this fight playing out on Saturday?
I predict this is a way more even fight than it was in the first time. I'm going to save my pick for when I'm sitting down. But I think that the first time, Jacare was leaps and bounds ahead of Derek Brunson. Not to discredit Derek, he had collegiate wrestling, but he couldn't utilize that wrestling because him taking down Jacare would have been a very silly move. So he was focusing primarily on defending the takedown, not getting taken down, and he got hit with the ooh-wee, got hit with the striking. So now I think that he's going to be more confident in striking. I think he probably has a chip on his shoulder and think I'm a better striker than him, and if he tries to take me down, now I'm going to use that collegiate wrestling. And I've seen guys have more success, Robert Whitaker, Yoel Romero, these guys are having better success at stopping his takedown. So as long as he's watched film, I think that, you know, the fight's way more even than it was the first time.
Cool. Are there any other fights on this card that maybe are sleeper fights that you're, maybe somebody might think that maybe it's not going to be that great? Is there any other fights that you maybe have your eyes on?
I love the Eric Koch and Bobby Green fight. Bobby Green is always in the fight. He's always a candidate for fight of the night. And he fights aside of sometimes when he's aggressive and he pushes forward, he can beat quite a few guys in that division. But sometimes it looks as if he's playing too much. He's defending but not countering. A lot of people forget before injury, Eric Koch was on his way to a world title. So now he's had the bounce back. He's had some wins. Had a fight against Clay Guida that didn't go his way. These guys are both in a position where they desperately need to go out there and remind us of what they can do.
Well, speaking of injury, I'd be wrong if I didn't ask to get an update on how's the shoulder, how's the recovery. I think I remember reading or seeing that you said somewhere that you were still hoping to fight within the first 3 months of 2018. I don't know if that's still a goal, but can you give us an update on how the shoulder recovery is?
Yeah, shoulder recovery is going great. I'm 5 weeks out right now. As you see, I'm out of the sling. Back training, rehabbing a couple times a day, shadow boxing. I'm not making contact yet, but my doctor is really aggressive. He's one of the best in the business. And Dr. Andrews said, I want you punching somebody in 2 months. So I've never had a doctor that invested in seeing me get back. Been extremely aggressive with my training protocols. So with that, in addition to the stem cell, PRP, at 5 weeks where I'm at right now, I was probably 2.5 months when I had the other shoulder done. So I should be back training within a month. And, I could fight in the first quarter of the year, but I really don't see a fight that makes a ton of sense for me. It's nothing that's really making the hair on the back of my neck stand up. So I'm looking to fight in July on a 4th of July card. I think it's like July 7th or something like that. And at that point, it'll be the perfect time. I won't be rushed to get back. And I think the proper opponent would emerge.
I was going to say that was going to kind of be my next question is who's been chirping at you? Who do you think's next? I think I read somewhere that you weren't interested in RDA. You didn't think that was an exciting fight. And then you got guys like Colby Covington out there chirping. Yeah. Do any of those names, I know they probably don't make sense in the terms of rankings, but do any of these guys ever get under your skin where you're just like, all right, let's just do this. You finally got me. I mean, are any of those guys close to getting under your skin to where you're just ready to say, all right, heck with it, let's do this?
Negative. My mom said I'm out to say anything. Of course, they want to talk. They want to fight. They saw what Conor McGregor did, and it's unfortunate that some guys that aren't even good at trash talking are trying to talk themselves into a fight. And I've earned myself where I'm at, my position, even before the UFC, just in Strikeforce. Like, name the last easy fight I've ever had. I've been fighting killers, former champions, former title contenders, and that's been my road to the top. So if these guys want to make me interested, they need to win a little bit more. They need to do something to make their resume a little bit stronger. RDA is probably the closest potential. He's a former champion. He was on a run at lightweight looking like the Terminator, and now he's come up. He fought Tarek Savagin, which was a good intro to the weight. Fought Robbie Lawler, was a good fight. So, if anybody in that pool, it would be him. The other guys that are talking and chirping, they know they're not in position to fight me, but they figure, hey, if nobody else is going to fight him, why not try to put myself in a position? But none of these guys really want to see me. They all talk about it. They all want to fight. My toughest matchups are behind me. All these guys that want to fight me now, skill-wise and just as far as being on that level, none of these guys are on the level.
I dig it. Well, hopefully the health thing works out and it gets done sooner. And if everything works out great, how many times are you looking to enter the cage on 2018?
I only want to fight on big cards now. I think I've earned that, and everybody want me to, you got to defend this many times. You got to fight the number one contender. I'm the only champion fighting number one contenders. Everybody else fighting whoever the hell they want. So I want to fight in July. I want to fight in November in New York, and I'll close out the year. And then next year we'll see what happens. I'll try to fight 3 times next year. I fought 4 world title fights in 12 months. Name me another fighter that did that against the true number one contenders in a dominant fashion. So that's my goal, July, November. Then I'll knock out 3, maybe March, July, November. Keep me on the big cards because at the end of the day, I'm the best in the world.
All right, and there's the champ, Tyron Woodley, giving you a little update. I dig it. I like the fact that he's trying to put his foot down. He just wants to fight on the big cards. He wants those pay-per-views. He wants those dollars. But like he says he's the only one that's out there actually fighting the top-ranked guys. He's not picking his shots, and but that's not for lack of trying, because we all know he's been trying to pick some of his shots. And if some of those big money fights came around, he would take them. But all right, guys. I want you to stay on. I want you to fight the urge to leave because John will come back after this segment. I promise you. But I'm going to hand it over.
That's a great sale, man. Upsell.
I know, right? It's just. But you never know what the excitement. I'm actually bubbling in my seat because I don't know what's going to be said. You know, there's no way to know. So all I can do is say, folks, enjoy this next little segment in what we like to call
Far Off Topic with Fiasco Jones. I'm glad I have that.
I know. I was like, save that sound somewhere. That was good. That was fun. I feel like you had some other little sound bites. It's funny because it's not like we have a machine set up. It just the audio happens to be getting picked up on his mic
on my laptop.
Off of his laptop. So, all right, Albert. So, what do you have for us today in the Far Off Topics?
Well, thank you for asking, Kenny, because I'm really trying to dig into a phenomenon that's been happening in the latter days of 2017. People reported seeing a creature flying through the skies of Chicago.
Whoa.
And do you know what that creature was?
A dragon?
No. It was the Mothman.
Whoa.
Are you familiar with the Mothman?
No. Tell me more.
Oh. The Mothman is actually strange that he's actually being seen in Chicago, actually. And might I say seen 55 times. People have said that they saw this strange creature known as the Mothman flying through the sky. In some cases, just kind of, wandering, meandering through the clouds. Sometimes actually landing on their hoods of their car and just kind of staring them down with its dead red eyes. The Mothman actually gained prominence back in 1967 when he started showing up in the Point Pleasant, Virginia. And in that case...
Is he he's like a moth?
Well,
with little bug legs? Or is he just like bad 70s clothing and big buggy hair with big butterfly glasses that look like moths?
His eyes actually are supposed to be these kind of little tiny red dots. So not really moth-like. And I don't necessarily think his wings are moth-like. I don't know exactly why he's called the Mothman at all, because I don't think he looks anything like a moth. He looks like a humanoid with these giant wings. Because even moths have little antennae.
I guess Mothman sounds better than humanoid man with wings.
Right. Doesn't really just
doesn't roll off the tongue.
So in that case, there was two actual characters in the Point Pleasant case. There was this dude named Indrid Cold, who was kind of a weird spaceman in black type figure who showed up and has had some association with the Mothman. Was he the Mothman? Was he trying to catch the Mothman? We don't know. But the Mothman itself was kind of flying around, terrorizing people of the town. Fast forward a year later, there's this place called the Silver Bridge in Point Pleasant, and it collapses. And it was prophesied by Indrid Cold and the Mothman and stuff like that. So now the question is, in Chicago, if we're seeing the Mothman hanging out, flying through the skies, landing on cars, terrorizing people,
they think something's going to happen?
Is something coming? That's the big question.
Well, so the bridge falling, the one that was, I guess, prophesized or whatever. I mean, what was the story that the Mothman, he walk on the bridge and...
Well, the Mothman actually wasn't there when it collapsed. He wasn't sighted anywhere when it happened. In fact, it was December 15th, 1967. The bridge collapsed during full rush hour, resulting in 46 deaths.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So it was a big thing. And it basically was a structural failure. An I-bar suspension chain broke, and the whole bridge just went into the ocean, or ran into the river down below.
And some poor engineer that designed it's just it was the Mothman. It was not my malfeasance. Yeah. It was the Mothman.
And that engineer's name was Indrid Cold.
Interesting.
Yes. No, it wasn't actually, but that would be a good twist, right?
Yeah. Right.
He'd been driving around town trying to explain to people, hey, the bridge is going to collapse. Whatever, crazy guy. Get the fuck out of my face. The Mothman!
The Mothman did it.
Yeah.
So they've been saying they've been seeing them in Chicago, huh?
Yeah. And we don't know what to do. That's it. He's just terrorizing Chicago for either no reason. There's actually a blogger named Lon Strickler. He runs the site Phantoms and Monsters, and he's kind of on the case right now. And he doesn't believe that there actually is he doesn't think it's the same Mothman for one. He thinks it's a different Mothman. So it might
Son of Mothman?
the son, the bride of Mothman. Either way, but for whatever reason, he's convinced that this Mothman is not here to prophesize the doom of anything. He's just doing his thing. He's just in Chicago. He just moved, or he's just living in Chicago. He's the Chicago Mothman.
Well, who said the first one was like prophesying the end of times? Did people talk with him? Or this was just other person was just like, oh, hey, shit happens after the Mothman shows up, like that bridge that one poor engineer student put together.
I believe it was actually the Indrid Cold character who was going. This Indrid Cold character had the most he was like telepathic being, kind of like it's a weird. It's a scary kind of gray skinned kind of like dark suited guy that would just show up and like beam his thoughts in your head, and was eventually kind of basically saying like, you better watch out, you better watch out, you better watch out, and. He wouldn't say. He didn't say though. There was no explicit like the bridge is going to collapse. It's just something's going to happen on this day, and watch out. And then he just disappears, and the bridge collapses, and like, oh,
interesting.
So yeah, and so far there has been no Indrid Cold in the Chicago case. So maybe once we start hearing about that, another he also drove a space car that kind of floated off the ground.
I would think somebody in Chicago would see a space car.
You'd think, but it's really.
But there's
a lot of murders in Chicago. If you
a lot
watch
of traffic.
a lot of Fox News.
A lot of traffic, so people tend to maybe don't be the most observant because
they're trying to dodge bullets.
The snitches.
They're just keeping their eyes on the road. They're not looking out for. They see a space car. Don't talk about the space car. Just doing what you do.
No one ever saw the car in Back to the Future, the flying car. Nobody ever saw the car.
You don't know that.
Car was flying.
There's actually tons of fan fiction about the people who witnessed the strange time traveling phenomenon that not Rick and Morty, but
another good show.
Yeah, Uncle Doc or Professor Doc, whatever his name was.
There's actually like fan people like.
No, I just made that up.
I was like,
there should be fan fiction told from the perspective
that could
of
be
a crazy guy.
That could be your next
story. I just saw you, kid. You're just effing up time. There should be that.
I like it.
Maybe even because remember that post that for the second one, the letter. We've been waiting a long time to find out if you were here. Maybe that guy, once he actually saw him, he's like, and I got a strange feeling. And then I saw him in the papers. He was all over the papers. Yeah, or maybe it wasn't because he started changing timelines so many times that pictures are vanishing. I don't know. But yeah, I've somewhat caught on. There's a John Keel, who's the author of the book, the Mothman Prophecies. There's a John Keel out there in the Back to the Future world that is trying to hunt down Doc. What is Doc's name? I want to call him Doc Savage. That's not right.
No, it was
white-haired Doc.
It's not Doc Rivers.
No,
it's just Doc.
It's just Doc. Doc. Yeah, I think it's just Doc. No, it's Doc something. Hey, yeah. All the people who want to give me 1 star for this.
So that's it. So that's the end of the Mothman.
Yeah, I have to keep it.
So how did you decide on why the Mothman? Because I know the other day you were going back and forth about whichever ones that you wanted to do, but. What made you settle on the Mothman? Did something implant that in your psyche?
No, it just was probably the story that had the quickest to tell. Yeah, because I have like 10 minutes to get through this. So
we did have to keep it short because and I feel like still we'll have to revisit it in the future because I know we don't have a lot of time, because this will be the longest road show in history because of all the audio because I'm too lazy to cut down the interviews that I did.
It could have been 15. How long are most of the audios?
20, I think the longest one is like 14 minutes, so 14, 12.
You could have easily turned that into a 5.
Oh, I could have easily, but
clips.
I could have easily, but yeah, whatever. So, so you're good? That's it? Mothman's done?
Yeah, I think we revisit it if that was the 55 sightings in 2017. If the Mothman continues to, terrorize Chicago. So
what should people look for? What were the...
Just keep looking up. And if you start seeing humanoid flying creatures with giant bat
little,
wings
and little beady
red
eyes.
Beady eyes, or a strange looking man in a space car steps up and starts talking to you telepathically, these are the signs that something probably bad is going to happen. Yeah, in a year.
And then you should get out of Dodge.
Or you don't know because it's so cryptic. It's so like you just stay where you're at and just, maybe it's just the doom of the world that Indrid Cold's here to sell.
That's some deep shit.
Yeah,
man.
The doom of the world.
All right, well, shit. How do we follow it up? by handing it back off to the man on the other side of the U.S. Folks, if you're still around, I know John's going to thank you for sticking around, but I'll say thank you very much for sticking around as well. These episodes are always kind of interesting, not having Morgan here to kind of bounce things off, and then, having me sitting here trying to lead the show is like, I don't know. What's an analogy of a crazy guy running a circus?
Ringleader?
Yeah, but like a better way of saying I'm a crazy guy leading the circus.
A criminal mastermind? No, that's
I like that though.
Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't fit at all, but
No.
I like to think of myself as a criminal mastermind.
Usually, crazy people don't lead anything. That's people flock away from crazy people.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So you're
All
just
right.
the homeless
just the
guy with the
crazy guy.
sandwich boards that says the end is nigh.
That's the guy I want to
Yeah.
be. That's the one. That's the one. All right. Well, hey guys, we're gonna send it back off to John. But thanks very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the audio. It was fun. This was a fun week of sitting down and interviewing the fighters. Granted, I will be honest. I'd rather the A team, the double team, was out here. But hopefully, me and Morgan, we double team these guys. We just come right up into the face, and then next thing you know, we're just interviewing them, and they want us to stop, and we're just sticking it in, and then we're just getting it done. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So hopefully we'll have that again soon. I know there's some other trips coming up that we will be getting together. Hopefully, if everything works out. I know Brooklyn was a possibility, and I'll be back on the road with Matt Erickson, other points this year, and then John's going to be doing a couple other solo shows. But I just want to say thanks for listening, guys. I'm glad that you guys stuck around and gave it a listen. So I'm going to send it back to John. And yeah, guys, thank you very much for listening.
Bye.
Welcome back to Temecula, California. Thank you, Cold Coffee, for updating us on everything happening out there in North Carolina. I'm not gonna lie, I will not be watching that event live. Saturday night, UFC on Fox 27 is my wife's birthday, so I will be at Topgolf, being a good husband, which I never am. Topgolf in Las Vegas, where we live. Yeah, it's a nice one. You do Topgolf sometimes?
It's dope. Yeah, I love Topgolf.
Oh, the Las Vegas one's ridiculous.
It's really dope.
Yep. So we're gonna do that. That's what she wanted to do. I'm like, wait. You want me to go play golf and drink?
That's a really cool life.
To celebrate your birthday? I'm like, I could do that.
All right.
All right. I should say the champ is still with us here. Ilima-Lei Macfarlane, the women's bantamweight or flyweight champ. Sorry, I don't want to say that.
I know I look like a bantam. Actually, I look like a featherweight right now. It's fine.
Flyweight champion, the inaugural, the only flyweight champion in women's Bellator history, and Anthony Beaches. It was the B. It was the B. That's what was there.
That's
correct.
what's up.
Ballast Point brewer extraordinaire that has set up everything for us, by the way. Bro, you've been taking care of us. It's been amazing. First of all, you've taken care of the road show regardless. We've been enjoying having the Ballast Point home games, and now we get to have one on the road. I'm going to put you on the spot. We got 4 different frosty beverages on the table right now between the 4 of us here. Do you remember what all of them are?
Yeah.
You've been collecting them all.
I've been trying my best to keep up. So
what do we got?
The champ herself is going Thai Wahoo, which has nice subtle spicy notes, but also a little citrusy element and drinkable as fuck.
Oh my gosh!
Pardon the
Is that
adult
on the
language.
label or like?
It should be.
Drinkable
It
as
should be, but deliciously crushable is what we'd call it in the industry, where you can
Nice.
drink them all day. Maybe the champ might be good after 3, but
I black out after 3. Yes, guys.
safety words, baby.
Well, the rest of this night's gonna be interesting.
So again, champ's rocking the Thai chili Wahoo
Yep.
wheat. Our man over here is rocking the classic Victory at Sea. Nice imperial porter, a little bit of coffee in there.
Dark looking.
Dark, a little bit of vanilla in there, a little bit of chocolate. Yours truly is drinking our GABF gold medal winning double IPA Manta Ray. Quite fucking delicious.
It is.
It is
also on the label.
It is this year's champ. It's this year's champ.
That's what's
This
up.
beer is this year's champ. It won the gold. Out of all of the breweries who put their shit in, this won the gold.
And me?
And Mr. Morgan likes some spicy shit like the champ does. Mr. Morgan is rocking some habanero sculpin.
Well done, my friend.
Classic flagship sculpin with some habaneros for the heat.
Well done, my friend.
Let me add one more thing.
All right.
On behalf of the champ, if I could.
Sure.
Champ's top 3 when it comes out. The list that you referred to earlier.
Yep.
Maybe top 2.
Yep.
to me, you brought up the good point. Shevchenko.
Shevchenko's the one right now, right?
And to me, I only
Which is
say
weird because she hasn't even fought there yet. So we can't rank her there yet. But we will rank her there soon.
And what I say is, you guys talked earlier about the now UFC champ. No disrespect to her whatsoever.
None.
I love her story, but going back to what the champ talked about earlier, you have technique.
Look at the respect that you get. Just the champ. You don't even get your name. Just the champ.
No, just the
As I
champ.
drink my beer.
Champ McFarlane, Mrs. McFarlane, if you want to be.
I like
if you
the
wanna
champ.
be
Just
legit.
the champ.
The champ better the champ.
I like it.
But there's levels and there's skill and technique to this. Like the champ said earlier, like the story for her was beautiful. Like when I watched it, I was torn. Like
Right.
I was with you guys where I'm like, I want Roxanne to win. I want the happy warrior. She's so nice. You can tell she's worked on her game forever. She's gotten very good.
Right.
But then you hear the story of the lady's native. She's overcame so much. She struggled a lot, and she's a scrapper.
Yeah.
Again, all due respect to them, Shevchenko, if she indeed is going to drop, she's a scary person. She's a technical fighter, and she's very mean. Going back to the champ, though, for me, I see 1-2, 2-1. However you look at it.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know that you could rank Shevchenko number 1 if she hasn't even fought there. We all know that's where she intends to go, but you can't just give somebody, that's you got to make them come in and accomplish something, right? I mean, so you can't just hand it to them on a platter.
So I think you made the perfect argument right there.
Listen, Nico's run was solid, all right? Barb Honchek's legit.
That's no joke.
She's no pushover.
Legit. Beat Montana Stewart, now Montana De La Rosa. I mean, legit as well. So, I mean, she picked up some big wins. And Lauren Murphy, I should say. I mean, those are legit fighters.
I have a question. Do you guys factor in tough fights to your guys' rankings?
See, that's the thing. So we had the same argument when strawweight came out. Do you look at just official record? Because those are technically exhibition bouts.
Yeah.
So what we try. This is going to be such an argument because we had the argument at strawweight. It's hard because they're not real bouts. I mean, but we saw them. They're known commodities.
And I heard the only reason why they're not technically real bouts is because, since it's previously recorded, they weren't. If you have a commissioned fight, the results have to be released right after.
That's right.
But since they're previously recorded, they have to be released. 6 weeks after when they actually air the show. So that's the only reason.
That's literally the only reason they call it exhibition bouts.
Yeah, so I'm
so
just
they
like,
can keep them under wraps.
It's like pretty real. It's real fights.
True.
From a fighter's perspective, it's freaking real.
True. I mean, it doesn't show up on your record, but it's a real fight, and you're so right. It's such an argument.
That's why I understand how difficult it is. Like sometimes rankings will come out, and I'll see Nico is not even in the top 5, and I'm like, what the fuck? She won the Ultimate Fighter.
Well, it's interesting because the real interesting one was coming off the first season was Rose Namajunas, right? Like she ended up losing, but and I think that made it even more difficult. Like had she won, had she beat Carla Esparza, right? Then she's champion. Boom, put her at number 1. No problem. She's the UFC champion. She went through it. But because she loses, she's not number 1. So is she number 2? Or I think at the time, I mean, her record was like 6-2 or 5-2. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't that. But we all knew she had talent. We all knew she had skills, especially with her run on the Ultimate Fighter. But those weren't real fights. It's such a tough place to put it. And that's why rankings they're hard.
They're subjective, honestly.
They're very subjective.
I really don't get butthurt when I see rankings,
right.
And I'm like, wait a minute, what the fuck?
Especially when you're talking about between promotions. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Because you can't fight each other. At least within organizations, the fights can happen and you can slot them out. You know what I mean? So it is. All right. Well, speaking of television production, since you're all about what's going on, the reason that those are exhibition bouts is because of television production.
Yeah.
I hear that you're a budding little television producer yourself. That you've got a concept that's
so happy
laid out
that
there.
you asked me this.
She told me to ask her about it.
Yeah, I did. So this is actually planned, guys. I'm like,
why didn't
we talk about my dating show? Oh, okay,
we'll talk about conversation that was. Okay, that just happened.
Master of the segue.
So, and I think that it's actually a good thing in case viewers don't know. So Bellator originally was on Spike Channel, and we recently rebranded as Paramount Network.
Right.
So a lot of people are confused. They're like, well, what does that mean? It was like, Spike still exists. It's Paramount on a different channel. It's like, no, everything's literally exactly the same. It's going to be on the same channel. The name's just different. It's just Paramount Network. Oh, isn't Paramount movie production? I was like, originally they were, but now they are branching out to TV series. So therefore, we are considered Paramount Network now. Anyway, so I went to this like schmoozy party the other night with like, I had to get dressed up and find a date. Yeah, fancy party. And
AJ wasn't available?
Huh?
AJ Matthews wasn't available?
He was not, and instead I took Darren Young, who is actually a WWE wrestler, way more followers, and way hotter than AJ Matthews. Anyway.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
Just kidding, AJ, I still love you. So I went to this party, and my whole plan, I was like, oh, this is actually perfect. I'm going to pitch my idea for a TV series because I think this is freaking awesome and genius. So basically, it's a show for me, obviously. It's a dating show, a reality TV dating show called Fight for Love, and it's basically The Bachelorette meets The Ultimate Fighter. So it's going to be all these male fighters inside a house, and I'm going to be the Bachelorette. So they're going to be fighting for my love. It's called Fight for Love. And sorry, I just burped. Hold on. Okay, yeah. So all these guys are gonna
what was the one that Flavor Flav had? Was that Fight for Love?
That was Flavor of Love.
Flavor of Love. Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So this is called Fight for
Totally
Love.
different.
There was also Rock of Love with that rock star Brett.
Brett Michaels.
Yes, I remember that.
Yes.
Yeah. So
that was the one that Frenchie was on.
And then there's also the Tila Tequila Show, which was also another something of love.
A Shot at Love.
Shot at Love.
Shot at
Oh my gosh!
Yes.
So,
wow,
there's Flavor of Love, Rock of Love, Shot at Love, Fight for Love, so which is going to be my show. Bachelorette meets The Ultimate Fighter. So all these fighters are in the house. I'm actually going to be the matchmaker for them.
Okay.
And if for any non-fight fans, matchmaking in fighting means that like you match up the fighters. It doesn't mean you're matching up like lovers, whatever. So I'm the matchmaker, matchmaking all of these fighters. And, if they win the fight, then they move on to the next round, which is like a date with me, whatever.
Right.
And
so there's little like mini wins along the way.
Yeah, it's like a tournament, like to see who
So they don't
wins
have to
my
be.
heart.
They don't have to get all the way. They get so they get like a date with you.
And then there'll be like mini challenges, like, hey guys, everybody wake up.
Like
so
you take them to rehab or something.
You have to make weight in 5 hours. Just, stuff like that. And then it's going to be a belt ceremony. So instead of a rose ceremony, it's a belt ceremony.
Like, I like it.
Will you accept this belt? And then here's the twist.
So will you give him like white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown, or like?
Oh, mate, that's a good idea. I like that.
Like they along the way. So you don't give them a championship belt right away. Like
the championship belt is at the end.
Right. You see what I'm saying? Like they get the.
I like it. I like it a lot.
I do like that. I was literally thinking though, like for me, winner of gets the black belt. Everyone else gets a white belt. You guys are white belts for life.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and then the twist at the end of the show is going to be, okay, so there's a winner, right? And it's like, okay, you win the Hardy v. Lima, like you guys are together or whatever. But the twist is they have to choose between me or a contract with Bellator.
Oh.
And I'm the Bellatorette. That's like my name. I'm not the Bachelorette. I'm the Bellatorette. Or the Matchlorette, according to Mark.
That last aspect
probably should have kept
sold
that under wraps.
I know.
Probably should have kept that under wraps.
Like
that is
totally
like literally that's legitimate
at this point. And I'm like, you know what?
Probably
Paramount, you fucking need to sign this shit already so that we can like sign non-disclosure agreements and get this shit going.
That is legit, though.
I like that.
And I'll say this is, I would love to see that, but I also want to see the one of non-fighters competing as well. So you have a bunch of average Joes.
Nope, can't do it.
Ooh, fuck all that.
Just because the lifestyle, or
too soft?
A lot of people have been pretty invested in my dating life. Mm-hmm. I've had a really fucked up relationship since I started fighting, and a lot of people are like, dude, you just need to like fight, or you need to date a non-fighter because those guys are crazy. I'm like, dude, I've already done that. I've done the NFL player. Like, I've done maybe not figuratively, but
I was gonna say,
not literally. I meant figuratively.
Maybe choice of verb there.
Maybe figuratively.
But I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like fighters / jiu-jitsu guys or / anybody in this field just understands the lifestyle better.
Right.
So
I get that. No, I mean, dude, I do get that, and I mean, professional athletes totally to agree, but especially finally, you have to be selfish. Like you absolutely have to be selfish, man. I don't I don't know how you balance. We talked about Kendall Grove earlier, 6 kids. Dude, like you have to be selfish. You know what I mean? So to find somebody that can put up with that and understand.
Well, talk about selfish too. And I was telling you on the break that when we were talking about Kendall and how this might be his last fight, he wants to retire. When the missile crisis happened, I call it the missile crisis. The missile alert happened. If the viewers are listening, what happened was there was a false alarm in Hawaii saying, "Hey guys, there's a missile heading your way. This is not a drill seek shelter." But at the time, we didn't know it was false. And Kendall, I guess, had left for the mainland to finish his camp, left for the mainland the day before.
Yep.
He's leaving a wife and 6 children, I think. And so imagine getting the alert on your phone, hey, there's a missile inbound, and your entire family is back home in Hawaii about to get blown up. So I think, a part of that really contributes. I can't speak for him, but if I were, I would be like, fuck, dude.
Yep. Maybe it's something I don't ever want to be in that situation.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be in that situation. I'm going to be home with my family. And that's something I've always admired about Kendall is that he's such a family man. And anyway, we're totally going off a tangent, but still. Kendall, I love you. The fact that you're a fucking family man and, you support your family 100%. And so I can only imagine the pain he went through during that time. It was nuts.
It's crazy. All right, well, I'll tell you what. Listen, we've got some frosty beverages to drink, and basically, if Ilima-Lei keeps talking any longer, she's going to take my job because she's been badass. Yeah. You crushed it.
I'm also going to black out pretty soon, so I'll for sure take your job. Give me one more.
Anytime you are in the area, you please come on the show because it has been a pleasure. Anthony, thank you, sir, for taking care of us, and it is always a pleasure to consume your product because it is fantastic.
It is a pleasure to consume with you as well, my friend.
That's what's up. All right, we're going to keep consuming. The rest of y'all, thanks for listening.